Hey guys, tonight we're boarding one of the most famous ships ever built, the Titanic. But don't worry, we're not here for the disaster part. Not yet. Tonight, we're slipping quietly into the world of second-class passengers, the overlooked middle, comfortable, refined, pleasantly ordinary, people who had no idea they were living inside a short-lived dream. Not the glamorous first-class socialites draped in jewels, and not the gritty third-class survivors of hard times. I mean the real, actual travelers in the middle. Teachers, clerks, families, and wanderers who were just excited to have hot baths, decent beds, and meals served on china plates while crossing the Atlantic in style. So before you settle in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is. Somehow, it always ends up being 2 a.m. somewhere, and honestly, that feels fitting for this story. Now, dim those lights. Turn on a fan for that soft, steady white noise. Sink into your pillow, get comfortable, and maybe tuck your feet in. Not because of rats this time, but because we're stepping into a ship with carpets so plush your toes might get lost in them. Tonight is all about gentle details. Warm lamplight, polished wood, crisp linens, and the soft hum of engines pushing thousands of tons of steel toward its destiny. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered what life on the Titanic actually felt like before the iceberg? Not the tragedy, not the panic, not the cold night we all know is coming, but the hours before that. The calm, the routine, the ordinary moments that feel almost impossibly cozy when we look back now. What did the second-class passengers smell, see, hear? Were the hallways really as warm and golden as people described? How good was the food? Did the cabins feel luxurious or just pleasantly practical? What kinds of conversations drifted through the lounges? Quiet gossip, travel plans, hopeful dreams, someone bragging about finally being able to afford a transatlantic ticket. And most importantly, what small joys filled their final full day aboard the so-called unsinkable ship? Tonight, we're not rushing the story. We're not jumping to the danger. We're moving slowly, like the Titanic itself, a steady glide across calm waters, so you can drift off gently while imagining a time when everything was normal, comfortable, and deeply human. Because before the tragedy, there was life. Warm, buzzing, peaceful life. So get cozy, breathe deeply. Let the sounds of the ocean and the soft glow of imagination settle over you like a heavy blanket. Picture yourself stepping into that second-class corridor. Polished brass railings, neatly painted walls, the faint scent of soap and coal, and the muffled chatter of passengers just trying to enjoy a rare moment of comfort in a world that didn't always offer it. Tonight, you're not a historian, and you're not a survivor. You're just a quiet observer drifting through a floating hotel, one that existed only for a handful of days, but left behind a century of fascination. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Floating Palace at Southampton. An impossibly massive floating palace, painted black, white, and gold, its steel plates dotted with millions of hand-hammered rivets, gleams under the bright sun at the Southampton dock. An impossibly massive floating palace, painted in sweeping bands of black, white, and soft gold, rises before the sleepy crowds gathering at the Southampton dock. Even from a distance, the Titanic seems unreal, too immense, too polished, too perfectly arranged to be something meant to float. The morning sun glides across her hull, catching on every precisely aligned steel plate, each one dotted with hand-hammered rivets that glimmer like tiny beads stitched along an enormous tapestry. For the travelers arriving with their luggage, worn coats, and quiet hopes, this was far more than just a ship. It was a doorway to comfort, opportunity, and the gentle promise of a modern, peaceful crossing. A soft breeze carries the mingled scents of coal smoke and cold seawater, brushing lightly against faces as passengers pause to take in the sight before them. The ship's colors shimmer subtly, sometimes deep and imposing like polished stone, sometimes soft and welcoming like a faded painting. Dock workers move with practiced rhythm, but even their performances seem to slow under the weight of the ship's presence. People lift their chins upward, eyes tracing the graceful curve of the bow as it rises high above their heads, meeting the gleaming white decks stacked like layers of a grand hotel. For many second-class passengers, this was the closest they had ever come to something that resembled royalty. Yet the Titanic welcomed them without hesitation. The gangway boards creak gently beneath carefully polished boots and sturdy travel shoes alike. Students heading toward opportunity, families hoping for a gentler life, older travelers seeking comfort, and young couples wrapped in quiet dreams of the future. Here, class divides blur just a little. Here, even the modest traveler is invited into elegance. Up close, the ship's craftsmanship becomes even more mesmerizing. The rivets, so small compared to the steel giant they bind, are thousands of quiet signatures left by the workers who brought this marvel to life. Sunlight catches on them like scattered stars, creating a soft, twinkling pattern across the hull. The steel plates themselves reflect the sky, the dock, and the soft excitement on the passengers' faces. It feels less like boarding a ship and more like walking toward a myth. Inside the second-class entrance, the world hushes. Warm varnish, polished wood, and crisp fabric greet the newcomers. Light trickles down staircases with patient grace, illuminating oak paneling, neatly patterned linoleum, and small but thoughtful decorative flourishes. There is no extravagance here, just quiet charm. Comfortable, human-scale beauty crafted for travelers who want gentleness without grandeur. It is surprisingly
cozy, surprisingly serene. As passengers settle into this floating sanctuary, the subtle hum of the ship becomes a backdrop, steady, reassuring, like a giant breathing beneath their feet. Somewhere deep below, machinery purrs, not loudly, but with a soft firmness that feels grounding. Suitcases thump gently against cabin floors, keys turn in locks, doors close with soft clicks. Conversations drift through the corridors in warm, hopeful tones. The ship hasn't moved yet, but already it feels like its own world. Stepping back outside, the scene remains quietly magnificent. The Titanic's towering, buff-colored funnels rise proudly, casting long shadows across the decks. Sunlight dances across the gold accents along the ship's nameplate. The ocean laps softly at the hull, welcoming the ship like an old friend. For the second-class passengers easing into their first moments aboard, the Titanic becomes something far more than a vessel. It is a home between worlds, a beautifully crafted, impossibly large refuge promising warm meals, gentle nights, and a journey wrapped in the comforts of a hopeful, modern age. Chapter 2. A salty snapshot of smooth sailing towards oblivion. Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight we set sail on a journey more uneventful than a snail race in slow motion. It's the life of second-class passengers aboard the Titanic on a clear April night in 1912, just before everything, went a bit off course, like your uncle's fishing trip when he mistakenly brought the fireworks instead of the bait. If you find yourself chuckling, or perhaps realizing that keeping your sweater on indoors can only go so far, don't worry, you're not alone. Lighten up, because what's ahead is about as cozy as a cup of chamomile tea brewed by your kindest neighbor. So grab your imaginary life jacket, don your coziest blanket, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Only if you actually enjoy it, of course. Imagine sharing a laugh with friends about the absurdity of it all, just like the way our second-class Titanic passengers chuckled over morning toast while dodging the latest scandal of someone wearing last year's hat to the ship's gala. Now let's slide into the crew's perspective. Ever wondered what it's like being up on the bridge, tasked with the monumental responsibility of steering what could have been an unsinkable marvel of technological prowess? What do you even chat about while piloting a ship through perfectly clear skies? Would you binge-watch cat videos in your head, Or were you simply reciting poetry to inspire the seagulls circling above? But nothing quite compares to the sound of the waves lapping against the mighty hull of the Titanic, soothing yet foreboding, as if the ocean itself were whispering, "A gentle reminder to watch those icebergs, dear friends." The officer on the bridge, with his shiny uniform more polished than a cat's conscience after a particularly messy break-in, makes a note in the treasured logbook. April 11th, 1912. All quiet. But the waters were anything but calm in the grand scheme of history. Ah, the Edwardian era, an age marked by self-assured excess, where the only real tension came from whether one should sip Earl Grey or English breakfast at precisely 4 p.m. The Titanic, a symbol of this industrial splendor, was cruising smoothly into the future. She was the epitome of luxury, like a bathtub full of bubble bath with actual bubbles from a spa day you wish you could afford weekly, but end up settling for a DIY affair with dish soap. The deck is a microcosm of delightful chaos. Men with slicked back hair are practicing their best "this ship cannot sink" looks, while ladies in their finest frocks are struggling to resist becoming human sails with every gust of wind. Imagine trying to maintain poise while frantically securing your feathered hat, all while dodging breadcrumbs from the elegant dinner rolls that just won't stop rolling away toward the edge of the ship. As you wander through the moments, the aromatic wafts of roasted meats intertwine with the salt-kissed air, creating a culinary tapestry so rich that the stench of last week's leftovers finally seems like gourmet cuisine. One might consider it the time equivalent of a charmingly awkward dinner party, where the guests are only one mishap away from debating the legitimacy of split pea soup as an actual food. Now, during this peaceful cruise, have you ever pondered how the fellow passengers in second class, bless their frankly plaid souls, about whether they would need to buy a new pair of shoes next season, or if their terribly managed sock drawer would make a comeback? Perhaps you'd overhear tales of brave deeds like conquering the rolling hills of the Midlands, or arduous discussions about how to keep the kids from eating tar on the way to school. The dreams of these passengers were marvelously quaint, filled with ambitions smaller than their luggage allowance. But I must confess, as you meander through the halls of the Titanic, it scarcely appears you're on a vessel, more like a well-appointed floating room escape, minus the creepy music and the need to solve puzzles before the walls close in. The ornate decor encases you in a warm embrace of wooden elegance, gently fending off the nagging worries of your normal hustle and bustle life. What am I doing Monday? Did I pay the electric bill? Am I still using that same potato as a makeshift doorstop? As soothing as the ambiance was, the second-class cabin debates often veered toward darker waters. Not icebergs, mind you, but the unsettling mystery of choosing the right half of a plum pudding. Was it really a pudding, or was it just a sweetened science experiment? You can almost hear a whispered, "So, what's in it?" wafting through the hallways, echoing the confounding questions of life in a modern Audi. Visioning the delicate clock ticking down on time aboard these majestic cabins, one starts to wonder if today might not be the day they meet Harry Houdini, hopefully not in a disappearing sense. But you find yourself comforted by the stories woven by those around you, where every slice of cake predates the inevitable disappearing iceberg act, nestled in conversations sprinkled with humor more delightful than a squirrel at a nut festival. And so, you settle in, surrounded by mild absurdity and laughing quietly at the paradox of it all. Just before history took a bitterly ironic turn, second-class life on the Titanic remained cozily absurd, tangled up in the paradox of a once glittering future. Rest easy, dear traveler, drifting slowly into the sweet embrace of slumber, keeping memories of an era well furnished with laughter, atop a vessel gliding toward the precipice of unforgettable history. Chapter 3. An arrival like no other. Hey guys, welcome aboard. Tonight we're sailing smoothly into something sweeter than a middle-class family vacation to the beach. life in the second class of the Titanic before it dramatically crashed into a giant floating ice cube. Yes, folks, you're about to embark on a cozy journey filled with wooden panels, fancy linens, and questionable dining choices that would make even the most discerning palate raise an eyebrow. But don't fret, it's all as absurdly entertaining as finding out your Uncle Larry's secret talent is yodeling. Before we dive in, why not like, subscribe, and comment, though only if you genuinely enjoy the whimsical ride through time. Trust me, Uncle Larry won't be yodeling for you, but I might just nudge you into the comforting cradles of sleep with this delightful chaos. So picture this. Have you ever wondered how it felt to be a second-class passenger aboard an ocean liner? Was there a complimentary soap at the bottom of your pants pocket? Did the food taste like it had been previously seen on sci-fi movies? And why, oh why, does every fine dining experience come with a side of potential seasickness? Take a moment, dim the lights, crank on a fan, and let your imagination drift. Congratulations, you've just woken up in April of 1912 on a ship that boasts more luxury than your average middle-class existence. You step onto the gangway, pumped with excitement, but instantly your senses are bombarded by the fragrant aroma of varnished wood mingled with a whiff of sea air and just a hint of hydrogen peroxide, because you know, cleanliness. As you enter, it feels less like a ship and more like an opulently decorated, wood-paneled hotel that has somehow gotten very lost at sea. The Titanic was like your grandmother's living room, but instead of doilies, you've got ornate light fixtures and couches that would definitely not fit in with your mediocre apartment. Oddly enough, the Titanic's second-class accommodations were famed for being the entry point to a luxury experience. Think of it as being the poor cousin who gets a sliver of the wedding cake. Now, in the Edwardian era, luxury was all about flowers, fancy tea sets, and a dazzling array of wallpaper, which, let's be honest, might have been nice, but shadows of tea stains loomed perpetually. You glance around, taking in the glorious sight of finely crafted wooden railings as solid as the caffeine addiction of the porters hauling luggage all day. Who needs a gym membership when you can get a workout dodging the very excited honeymooners attempting to reenact every romantic scene from a play they'd once seen? Suddenly, you overhear a conversation. It's two gentlemen, probably arguing about whether they should have brought that very expensive monocle or perhaps indulged in a steam room experience instead. One of them turns to you, eyes twinkling like he just found a quarter in an old couch. So what? Do you think the chances are of us running into an iceberg? 1 in a million? You chuckle nervously. Because let's be real, you'd never want to be the type to laugh in the face of icy doom. But what do you think began the frenzy of hydrocolloid ambitions? You know, running wildly under the pretense that a steamboat race is the best competition for a Tuesday afternoon. Instead of contemplating your impending doom, you stroll deeper into the second-class lounge, a mesmerizing melange of light spilling through large windows. The plush carpets are lush under your feet, and it's as if the floor has taken your dreams and woven them into fibers. You half expect to see a butler appear just to offer you a cup of Earl Grey, while he simultaneously keeps an eye out for that pesky iceberg on the horizon. As you perch on a comfy couch, you find yourself surrounded by fellow passengers. One poor chap is trying desperately to start a conversation about the proper way to eat a biscuit, like this is a vital life skill that cannot wait. Ever tried to enjoy a biscuit while also hiding your seething bitterness at the altitude of the bread? Believe me, it's a multitask that defies logic. Fast forward through a few tickling conversations and a rather uncomfortable encounter involving someone's pet parrot that belongs to the questionable uncle of a distant cousin. You realize something strange. Some of the second-class meals consist of dishes you've only ever seen on reality television. To your surprise, none of them seem to resemble biscuits. Instead, you've got something that suspiciously resembles fish with claws, an array of vegetables that have definitely passed the point of freshness, and a dessert that looks like a failed science experiment. Just then, a butterfly floats in and lands gently on your shoulder. You glance at it, slightly incredulous,
Because, as folks, you know butterflies don't usually hang out at dinner tables. Remember, while exploring cakes, sometimes the sweet treats come with a bit of, shall we say, extra protein. Yes, even a second-class life can serve you surprises you never saw coming, all wrapped up in a mysterious sauce labeled, "Make sure that this never lands on your pants." With the ghost of past experiences lingering and your mind swimming with visions of fancy sandwiches and unsettling aquatic animals, one lingering thought strikes you. Maybe the Titanic was less about just being on a big ship and more about surviving a culinary adventure on the high seas. After all, who doesn't enjoy a smidge of betrayal from their dinner, right? It truly is a life lesson on the unpredictable quirks that life throws your way. As the day turns to night, you curl into your cozy seat, lulled into a comfortable state by the gentle rock of the ship, drifting into dreams of sumptuous dining, cheeky conversations, and, of course, an uninvited iceberg. In the second class of the Titanic, during this cozy slice of life, while you consider yourself lucky to hold a fork rather than a spear to catch your next meal, never forget, sometimes misadventure is a style of life, especially before the iceberg makes its grand cameo. And with that comforting thought, let's prepare to slip into the soothing arms of slumber as all things cozy and distasteful balance delicately on the salty breeze. Chapter 4. The Cozy Conundrum of Second-Class Cabins. Welcome back, fellow time travelers. Now that you're securely tucked away in your cabin, let's slip into the fluffy embrace of Titanic's second class before any uninvited icebergs crash our party. Trust me, it's about as cozy as lounging on a cloud made of marshmallows. Minus the existential dread, of course. Those second-class cabins were a delightful mix of sea travel and a slightly over-the-top guest house vibe, where you could rest your head on mahogany bunk beds polished to such a shine they could cause temporary blindness if you're not careful. Seriously, you could check your reflection on those beds. Such an odd throwback to when selfies were simply not a thing. Instead of selfies, you had a beautifully crafted mirror, reflecting back your nautical dreams and perhaps the occasional grimace over the questionable seafood on offer. As you sink into those crisp sheets, so perfectly ironed they make the sound of crumpling paper when you move, like some kind of wedding gift from the linens fairy, you can't help but feel like royalty. Sure, you're not in the luxurious drawing rooms of first class, where champagne flows like gossip at a book club, but in second class, you could find a certain charm. Let's take a moment to appreciate the sensory details that whisk you away deeper into the lap of luxury. The scent of polished wood wafts through the air, mingling with the faint smell of sea salt, as if the ocean itself is trying to sprinkle a little bit of magic over your travels. And oh, the rhythmic creak of the ship can lull you into a peaceful state much more easily than a cat video on social media ever could. Imagine yourself waking up in such a room after a long night of being serenaded by the gentle lull of the sea. You'd stretch out, only to remember you are sharing your cozy space with the baggage of your fellow travelers. A couple of young newlyweds are off in the corner, attempting to keep it romantic while fighting over who gets to choose breakfast, and an elderly gentleman next to them has just woken up with a towel wrapped around his head, as though he plans to get into an intensity reminiscent of a watercolor-themed high seas sketch. Just another day in paradise, you might think. But the truth is, second-class life aboard the Titanic had its own unique quirks. For starters, when you headed to the dining area, did you ever stop and marvel at the decor? Ornate wallpaper lined the walls, a floral pattern flourishing like a Victorian garden party in full swing, while framed art graced the space, probably from someone's misguided art class. If only they had included a disclaimer near the paintings, something like, "Warning, may cause existential pondering about your life choices." Now, let's talk food. Oh, food. Second-class dining was a delightful adventure all on its own, a culinary journey that had you excited yet terrified with each course. From suspiciously named dishes to confusing interpretations of traditional, it was an experience engaging enough to make a food critic laugh or cry, depending on their constitution. Dishes included things just extravagant enough to sound appetizing. Salmon a la catastrophe, or chicken that may or may not have been alive yesterday. Really, who knew how long it had been hanging out in the galley before becoming your entree? You might sit down with your fellow diners, with plates so large and filled with food that they make you briefly forget about any dietary resolutions made back on dry land. A clattering of bowls and plates filled the air, harmonizing beautifully with conversations about, well, everything and absolutely nothing at all. One table was deep into a heated debate about whether biscuits were superior to scones, something that surprisingly gets the emotions flowing almost as much as the drink. But don't be fooled. It wasn't just the food that made the experience special. Travelers would swap stories as they attempted to navigate the accidental spill of water, or was it soup, from the recent dish that seemingly had a mind of its own. There's nothing quite like dining in shaky conditions while making eye contact with fellow diners, where laughter and wine mixed more joyfully than any cocktail ever could. After breakfast, you might decide to explore the ship, a significant perk of being a second-class passenger. As you walk down the hallways, you'll notice the skies change colors, and you'll breathe in deeply, savoring that invigorating ocean air. Sunlight seeps through the porthole windows, illuminating the wood and creating a dance of shadows that's eerily reminiscent of a romantic movie scene where everything is going to be just fine, unless the Titanic meets her iceberg nemesis, of course. However, against this backdrop of tranquility, some peculiarities arise. A cabin neighbor may approach you with wild eyes and a tale about their cousin's friend who saw a mermaid, while others are locked in intense discussions about whether toothbrush should actually consist of more than one bristle stem. Plainly absurd, right? Yet here you are, feverishly nodding, because in this world of second class, everything becomes possible when your imagination runs wild. So, curl up once more in your snuggly refuge, let the vibrations of the ship ease you into a meditative state. Because, dear listener, while you might not remember the details of your second-class trip once you wake up, you'll always carry with you the incredible comfort of window views, questionable dinners, and perhaps just a hint of lurking disaster, like that iceberg waiting just beyond the horizon. And in this world full of chaotic beauty, where second-class life meets unexpectedly delightful charm, here's a toast to surviving every surprise our journey might throw our way. May you drift ahead like wax on a fancy
Cheeseboard, happily unaware of the cooler events yet to unfold. Chapter 5. Morning Glory at Sea. Titanic's second-class sunrise. Hey guys, welcome back to your favorite floating bedtime tale, where this evening we're ebbed in the gentle lilt of the Titanic's second-class section, a world before icebergs crashed the party and when the biggest fear was running out of biscuits. It's like living in a lovely dream, except for the potential threats of fate slinking around like an unwanted houseplant. Now, before we dive into the cushy escapades of second-class life, don't forget to gently tap that like button, subscribe, and join the voyage of quirky history exploration. Only if you truly enjoy this, of course. If not, maybe don't let that iceberg hear you complain. So, dim the lights, put on a fan, and let yourself relax. Picture yourself dressed in your finest Edwardian garb, perhaps an outfit borrowed from your grandmother's attic that you hope is still in style. Suddenly, you find yourself thinking about the important questions, like who decided to invent the ocean, and why is it full of fish that think they can just swim wherever they like? What would it be like to sip tea from a delicate porcelain cup while understanding absolutely zero nautical terminology? Congratulations! You've just woken up on April 11th, 1912, inside the luxuriously lavish second class of the Titanic, where the sun is peeking through a porthole, drenching your cabin in warm, golden tones, like a persistent golden retriever just begging for belly rubs. Now, you're not just afloat, you're sailing on a floating palace, complete with a slight creak that makes it feel like your entire world is on a cozy swing set.
It's like waking up in a good hotel, where the main concern is being late to breakfast, rather than, the ship's keel snapping in half like it's trying to impress James Cameron. Let's take a moment to enjoy that gentle hum as the ship slices through the North Atlantic, a soothing soundtrack reminiscent of a lullaby performed by an orchestra of very sleepy sea creatures. Outside, waves roll in a rhythmic dance, as if engaging in a low-stakes battle with the Titanic, their water wings sluggishly waving a "we'll get you next time, buddy" to the mighty vessel. As you stretch out beneath your warm, fluffy blanket, perhaps made from sheep that had some earlier drama you'd prefer not to inquire about, you can't help but think about the weirdly charming quirks of second-class life. Picture this. You get out of bed, feet sliding onto the cold, slightly polished floor, the chill waking you up faster than an unexpected text from your ex. And what do you encounter next? The morning ritual of multiple, mildly awkward encounters with your fellow passengers. Oh, but don't worry, you don't have to awkwardly avoid eye contact. Instead, you can enter into a sea of delightful pleasantries. Picture your cabin mates, a newlywed couple in the corner who think they have everyone fooled,
with their coy giggles about what they realized during the night. Meanwhile, the elderly gentleman beside you, decked out in suspenders that seem to have opinions of their own, is trying to keep his towel perfectly positioned on his head, as if he's just returned from some pirate-themed spa. That's right, folks. It's a mixed bag of morning cheer, from the enthusiastic to the bewildered. Next, let's saunter somewhat clumsily towards the dining area, because who doesn't want a side of unexpected claustrophobia while trying to politely unfold a napkin? You take a seat amongst fellow adventurers, all clutching menus full of items that could make even a brave soul second-guess breakfast. Imagine sitting down to mystery omelet or fish floating past yesterday's aspirations. It is delightful, yet mildly terrifying, kind of like adopting a cat, only to find out it's actually a raccoon wearing a body pillow as a disguise. The dining room itself is a marvel. Framed art adorning the walls, each charmingly fraudulent in its attempts to portray the magnificence of the sea, but more likely just a reflection of the confused artistic aims of the ship's interior design team. The wallpaper? It's a floral explosion, like nature had a midlife crisis. If floral motifs ever had a wild party, this would be the aftershock. You might even find some bees attempting to make a home out of the intricate designs. And let's not forget the dining experience, where the laughter of your fellow travelers harmonizes with the clutters and clanks of tableware, transitioning from delightful meal to unwieldy disaster. One minute you're guffawing over the tale of a man claiming that he had once wrestled with a thoroughbred at a southern drawl. The next, you are dodging a rogue soup slosh careening your way, like a naval battle gone wrong. But that's just it, isn't it? Life aboard the Titanic, at least in second class, was a comedy, not merely a script written on parchment, but a theatrical performance unfolding, complete with applause and a few stink-eyed glares from those who genuinely believed they made the best potato salad in the South. So take a moment, let your shoulders relax, sip on imaginary hot cocoa, while relishing the absurdity of the moment. The gentle sway of the Titanic, the hum of dreams untainted by solitude, all proving that a little chaos can go a long way, as long as no icebergs join the party. You might just drift off to sleep with the delightful memory of those awkward encounters, sumptuous meals, and wild morning antics lingering. You never know when the next iceberg might be lurking right around the corner. Chapter 6. Quiet Reflections Over Mahogany, the ardent reader of Titanic's second class. As you breathe in the scent of freshly polished mahogany, which one might argue smells like ambition and slightly overdone cologne, you spot your roommate, an Argentinian with dark hair adorably flopping over his forehead, hunched intently over a book at the cabin's dressing table. You feel a sudden urge to join his literary reverie, but somehow your own half-concocted dreams of discussing the weather remain afloat in your mind, waiting for the right moment to sink into awkward silence instead. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer audacity of your roommate's concentration. It's as if he's discovered the secrets of the universe contained within the pages, revealing mysteries like why toast lands butter side down and who concocted the idea of all-you-can-eat buffets. Watching him over the rim of your not-so-stylish newlywed mug, you can't help but contemplate the oddities of life aboard the Titanic, especially in the calm before the chill of impending disaster. Your quiet cabin, compared to the chaotic atmosphere of a recently concluded dinner, feels as cozy as a rabbit hole, tucked away from the haphazard hustle and bustle of the world outside. The chime of laughter and clatter of dinnerware slowly fades, allowing you to hear the gentle lapping of waves against the ship. They're like nature's version of white noise machines, perfect for napping, or at least pretending to read. Perhaps you wonder, is there a hidden purpose behind the choice of ship library selections? What profound wisdom would one find wandering the dusty aisles of literary gold? Maybe a manual on icebergs, how to avoid them, or the do's and don'ts of dining on a sinking ship. Shaking these thoughts from your head, you eye your roommate again, captivated by his determination. It seems he's either deeply engrossed in a riveting mystery novel or trying to update the How to Prevent Future Iceberg Incidents protocol based on plot twists. And then there's the sailor in you, or the slight urge to assert yourself as nautical expert, kicking in with abysmal timing. Dreaming of navigating an iceberg-laden sea feels like picking a fight with your own sock drawer. After all, who needs the Titanic's safety manual when you can wildly gesture while explaining the significance of the position of the North Star to your roommate, who's just here to read about penguins? The reality, of course, is both tragic and absurd, and every awkward analogy makes more sense than thinking you could steer a luxury liner yourself. Your roommate finally looks up, perplexed by your looming gaze. Realizing the last thing he wants is an unsolicited TED Talk about maritime navigation, you politely lower your head to your imaginary book. Still, you make note of the intriguing pattern made by the room's wallpaper, splashed with designs resembling an explosion of baby fruits on a tea party table. Who knew wallpaper could choose such a questionable career path? Musters within you. Meanwhile, that delicate tea set clutter lingers in memory. You're almost certain it could rival the local tea house back home. If only they served enlightened conversations along with your Earl Grey, not to mention a complimentary side of laughter in preparation for the gravity of the Titanic being the top of maritime engineering. Alas, in your current predicament, conversing with your Argentinian roommate about the flavor of 3-week-old tips for reading makes as much sense as trying to sell sand at the beach. The light flickers as you hear the comforting sounds of the crew above, perhaps grumbling about their own strategies for avoiding iceberg run-ins, or discussing how many soup spoons equate to a solid 2 minutes of glory at sea. Every passing grumble solidifies the background noise of life aboard the Titanic, which is oddly reminiscent of a chaotic family reunion. Lucky them. Oh, how quaint these little disturbances are. They're the echoes of a cozy camaraderie, community forming right under the ship's plush veneer of luxury. A delightful medley of disparate souls sharing a unique microcosm even without a common language. Who would have thought that second class on the Titanic would become an anthropological marvel of fleeting human connection? It's almost poetic, really, except for the looming reality of ice cubes lurking in the Atlantic like uninvited guests. Then you hear a slight rustle. Your roommate has turned a page, and you find yourself wholly captivated again. What secrets await him in the pages, just like the vast ocean holds treasures of its own? Mirage and reality blur, and soon you're pondering,
What if this novel contains the diaries of a sailor who thought swimming with fish made good tea? As dreams swirl in your mind, temperatures from earlier conversations heat up. A few gentle glares ensue from fellow guests outside your cabin, each judging others by their ability to maintain social norms. You can almost feel the conversations, or lack thereof, drifting past, from awkward laughter to whispering about yesterday's mackerel-based meal. Deep sighs escape the others around you, forming an invisible community of perplexed individuals. So settle in and let the absurdity of life on the Titanic wash over you. Lose yourself to the fantastically mundane moments where shared silence speaks volumes, and where theories of iceberg avoidance float like fluffy marshmallows in hot cocoa. A warm treat you'd enjoy if only it weren't a mere hallucination born from too much ocean air. And as the echoes of life on board the luxurious Titanic continue behind you, blending into distracted musings about yesterday's fish dish, you find solace in the knowledge that even in hilarity, humanity shines brightest just before every storm, and perhaps even in its aftermath. Both.
You and your roommate agree that sharing space and quiet giggles is as good a way of weathering fate as any, at least until the ice arrives. Chapter 7. Opulence with a Side of Regret. The Marvels of Second-Class Cabins. As you sway back into the splendid confines of Titanic's second-class accommodations, let's take a collective, deep breath. Breathe in. That's the heady scent of intention mixed with just a hint of irony, as you prepare to examine something probably cozier than your high school slumber party: the second-class cabins aboard the grand ship. Spoiler alert, if you were hoping for something akin to sleeping on a cloud sprinkled with fairy dust, get ready for a soft letdown, in the least tragic way. Now, let's talk about the extravagance of your cabin. Look around. The glossy white enamel shines like a personal apology from the shipbuilder for any inconvenience caused by that pesky iceberg that you, of course, have not yet been informed about. Everything is designed with a delicate elegance, as if the ship's architect thought, how can we make a floating metal box feel like a five-star hotel without the risk of it becoming a luxury-scale version of Survivor? The gleaming oak paneling lining the walls is reminiscent of your childhood dream of living inside a tree. Only now, you're trapped inside an elaborately engineered vessel floating over the Atlantic, worried about the likelihood of those dreams turning into a film tragedy. The wood's finish reflects the light just enough to distract you from any existential musings. It's almost glowing, defiantly mocking your mental image of a dilapidated, floaty coffin that is somehow considered both charming and luxurious. You move closer to your dressing table. Ah, yes, a built-in wash basin awaited you, which in 1912 is basically the Edwardian equivalent of a spa day, sans cucumber slices for your eyes. Here, you can wash away the day's worries, unless, of course, your day included a conversation about potential iceberg encounters. Then, you'll need a little more than water to cleanse your soul. But I digress. Imagine leaning over that basin to splash your face, feeling like a Victorian aristocrat who has slightly misplaced their sense of caution. With water that might derive from God knows where, and only slightly less than drinkable, you feel like each splash vividly whispers the philosophy of the era of, if you're going to sink, sink in style. And there's the mirror, a proud reflection that, at best, will show you the remnants of a questionable breakfast choice, a few beans, some bread, and the residual taste of sheer maritime dread. You can't help but wonder if that mirror carries the burden of revealing the truth, that 5 minutes after washing your face, you will mysteriously turn into a wind-blown, lipstick-smudged apparition, one that's lost all semblance of dignity while battling cabin fever. The entirety of your cabin encourages a delightful sense of luxury, as if it shouts, "Look, you may be moments away from discovering why shipwrecks were invented, but at least you can do it comfortably."
Serving as a juxtaposition to the muted chaos outside, every detail stands proudly, done with as much flair as the latest Parisian fashion. You wonder how these cabins were considered the middle ground of luxury, just a notch below the pure opulence of first-class accommodations, yet higher than a peasant's home sweet home nestled in the moors. Do the second-class passengers inadvertently nurture resentment? You bet they do. It's practically a rite of passage, watching as first-class passengers stroll by with their plush blankets and caviar-crusted everything while you clutch this marvel of a sink as if it were your only anchor to sanity. Sitting cross-legged on your single bed, which is comically small, yet feels delightfully indulgent, your thoughts drift. Were there arguments about who gets the better cabin? The cabin furthest from, icebergs? You know the type. Some improbable couple arguing over who gets to enjoy the chamber pot closest to the door. The tension in the air practically asks, "Would you like to discuss today's iceberg avoidance plan while doing your business, darling?" Oh, and don't forget those charming decor touches. Your room is adorned with wallpaper depicting whimsically Fight Club-style fish, because nothing says luxury like fish in a boxing match, right? Will there be a sequel called Fish: The Revenge? As you lean back, you can almost hear the grand conversations trickling through the walls. Who'd have thought that such a floating goldmine of second-tier extravagance could produce snippets of gossip and laughter, along with silent resolutions to not acknowledge they're on a colossal sea-going ice cream cone? Perhaps they're discussing how awkward it would be to run into the captain while using the wash basin to fix their morning hair. Gasp! How embarrassing would that not be? But beneath all that elegance lies the deliciously absurd madness of life aboard a luxurious ship tiptoeing past icy doom. You feel a tingle of laughter bubbling within you, as if you're on the verge of exposing that elaborate tiered cake the universe has stacked just so, decorated with comical candor and a side of fate. As you settle in for an evening of comforting illusions in your cozy cabin, remember that Titanic's second class was meant to wrap you in the softest of pretensions. Within these walls echo the laughter of those wishing to ignore the evident iceberg-shaped elephant lurking just outside. And so here you are, as sleep drifts closer, comforted by the knowledge that amid the chaos and impending fates, cozy little cabins brought passengers together, if only for a short while, before the watery plot twist unfolds in the stillness of night. For now, embrace this serene cocoon of uniquely humorous companionship. Here's to sleeping soundly, despite the uninvited thrill of unpredictable circumstances awaiting just beyond the Burma-shaded oak doors, as
You sink deeper into an abyss of cozy absurdity, with a wink from history itself.
Chapter 8: Enlightened Dimness. The glamorous brass touches of Titanic's second class. Hey guys, welcome back to your cozy time machine. Tonight, we're diving deeper into something shinier than your cousin's unsolicited Facebook reels, those gleaming brass fittings aboard the Titanic's second-class cabins. Yes, you heard that right. It's time for embellished light switches and a good dose of delightful absurdity. But before we get into the illuminating details, pun thoroughly intended, I just want to remind you to hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment if you enjoy this cozy dive into history. But only if you actually enjoy it. No pressure, my friends. Are you warm enough? Grab a blanket, dim the lights, and maybe put a fan on if you're feeling a little stuffy. Picture yourself here. How would it feel to walk in fancy yet sensible shoes, pretending every step's important like you're on a catwalk made of 1912 sea salt? Or to have a plate of food that any food critic would instinctively recoil from? You know, the kind of meal where you can't quite differentiate between fish and meatloaf. The experience is what counts. What would an Edwardian socialite do if they ran out of gossip while polishing that brass switch? Would they tap dance around the cabin in sheer panic until a few second-class friends swooped in for the rescue? And if someone accidentally mistook the light switch for an innovative form of mind control, how would they react? You know, the important, pressing questions of our time. Congratulations! You've just woken up in April 1912 aboard the magnificent Titanic. As the sunlight streams through your porthole, you wonder if giving in to the delightful chaos surrounding you is still a societal faux pas. Spoiler alert, it is. So, speaking of bright ideas, let's talk about that elegant brass fitting for the light switch you've just glanced at. It glimmers invitingly in the soft glow of late-afternoon sunlight, almost as if it has secrets deeper than your grandmother's fabric stash. Custom embossed with the White Star Line logo, it stands proud amongst the handcrafted interiors, like a lot of ambition wrapped in shiny metal, much like your 2005 self at your high school reunion. Imagine running your fingers across that smooth brass surface. It feels cool against your skin, a contrast to the warm hilarity of your surroundings. The craftsmanship beckons old-timey comparisons. It's talking, in that second-class way, telling your inner child, "I'm sorry you're not in first class, but you sure can bump elbows with all the fancy folks leaning on my solid gold charm." Oh, but let's not get ourselves lost in the glimmer too quickly. This might be the Edwardian era, but clarity often came with a frosted twist of irony. Think about it. You're aboard a piece of engineering celebrated for its unsinkable magnificence, while simultaneously hovering above a watery death trap. That
Brass fitting becomes more than just an art piece. It's an embodiment of optimism punctured by fate. And feel this absurd sense of calm surround you, as passengers, some with dreams of conquest, others with the worry of irrational fears involving the open ocean, huddle under the soft light radiating from electric bulbs, made possible by, yes, you guessed it, those whimsical brass switches. But oh dear, what's that? A slight flicker? Curse you, electrical gremlins! Do they serve tea, too? Not to put too fine a point on it, but stepping into this cabin is like unboxing an overpriced subscription meal kit in the 21st century. Charmingly inelegant, yet filled with hope, as you scan the dimly lit room for culinary miracles. And might I remind you, these extravagant light fixtures may have appeared magnificent, but the bulbs certainly didn't shine as brightly as your hopes of avoiding an iceberg at this point. You set down your complimentary tea, which suspiciously tastes like disappointment, and examine more exquisite brasswork rushed into existence during a hectic shipyard frenzy. How on earth did they manage to make a light switch so ornate? It's a light switch, not a royal invitation for an afternoon gala. If only British shipbuilders had known that all they really needed for ambiance was dim light and a killer playlist. Beyond that light switch is a plethora of decor riveted with delightful absurdity. Lush velvet curtains drape languidly, like they too are battling seasickness, while the sweet scent of varnished oak, combined with a hint of lemon-scented furniture polish, fills the cabin air. Oh, how curious it is to think that the air can feel wealthy. You half expect a butler to stroll in and take your order, perhaps for a do-it-yourself emergency lifeboat kit, or a cheeky upper-class beverage. Just picture the scenes. Passengers darting about, glancing in mirrors, feeling dapper and waiting for the next big conversation, while ill-timed light switches flicker ominously in the background. Can you hear the sheer ridiculousness of it all? Oh, darling, do be careful with that light switch. I hear it's known for its shocking personality. If only they had known how electric the situation would soon become. As you soak in the quirky blend of past and present, you realize that life on the Titanic was a curious juxtaposition of humor and fate. While the future of those aboard may seem like a foreboding tale of sea blues, for now, let's revel in the comforting absurdities of dim lighting, embellished brass switches, and the joyful chaos of the second-class cabins. So settle in as you embrace this cozy cocoon of Titanic life. Surrounded by laughter tinged with irony and the gleam of finely crafted fittings, it's a marvel of time, one that hints at enjoyable distractions that, thankfully, don't involve iceberg encounters. Here's to gently drifting into the laughter and absurdities of history, anchored by plush
Cushions and brass nostalgia
until the morning dawns anew. Chapter 9. The Corridor of Wonder. Stewardly directions and steep stairs. Hey guys, welcome back to your cozy time machine. Tonight, we're wandering down a corridor even narrower than your old bedroom after a high school reunion. You know, that time when you saw all that dusty junk you thought you'd thrown away. Hello, fourth grade diorama? Spoiler alert, it's in that weird pile of mystery items right next to your long-lost enthusiasm for adulting. But before we stroll through this charmingly cramped space on the Titanic, I'd like to remind you to hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment if you find yourself laughing, or even just mildly amused, tonight. Truly, only if you genuinely enjoy it. No pressure. Now, let's settle in. Dim the lights, crank up the fan, and snuggle into your favorite blanket. Picture this moment. You're tiptoeing on plush carpeting that could rival the softest cloud on a summer afternoon, while the sounds of laughter mingle with the gentle chugging of the engines. But wait, have you ever wondered how the Titanic's second-class passengers avoided the embarrassment of being mistaken for steerage? Or, what sort of email would describe a stay in a luxury cabin back in 1912? Dear Mom, just wanted to clarify that, yes, I am still mishandling my diet amidst the extravagant food offerings. More pudding, please? Congratulations! You've just woken up in April 1912 aboard the magnificent Titanic. As you step into the thick, plush carpet of the corridor, it feels as though you're walking not just through space, but through time. Schooling your feet against the forward motion is almost a sport in itself, isn't it? Every stride whispers tales of elegance and adventure, albeit a tad cramped for your modern standards. As you continue down this narrow passageway, your eyes are drawn to the intricate woodwork, something resembling a lumberjack's dream, skillfully crafted to look dignified rather than homey. Here, an ornate balustrade cradles the staircase, and its curves and whorls beckon with all the charm of a confusing yet deeply inviting map. The only thing missing is a little "You are here" sign. And wouldn't that just make things even cozier? Suddenly, a steward appears, all crisp white uniform and bright smile, like an angelic guardian tasked with your comfort, but probably without the wings. This fellow is the human GPS of 1912, confidently pointing the way toward the grand main staircase, while you simultaneously wonder how he manages to look perpetually pressed and never even slightly rumpled. Did he iron himself? Does he know the dark secrets of fabric softeners in an age when laundry required a full afternoon of hard labor and maybe a prayer or two? Questions. So many questions. You can't help but think, if only there were a best dressed in second class competition. Would this steward win? Or are there countless competitors secretly plotting elaborate schemes with the aim of dazzling the dull ambiance of the corridor? We could hold a fashion show right here. All aboard for Test of Fabrics, Titanic Edition. Just imagine the extravagant outfits they could concoct. A splendid tapestry of bold colors, Victorian in spire, and absurd levels of flair. Newsflash, half of them would be crushed by their own embellishments. As you stand awkwardly, considering the rules of engagement in the realm of second-class attire, rest assured there'd be far less elbow room than the Titanic promised. Your new steed of the seas leans in to expound on the many delights below decks. You could practically hear the thump of the culinary wonders, a symphony of flavors trapped within the sheen of lavishly appointed dining rooms, each participating in some sort of jovial duel with the kitchen staff. But focus. We cannot get too lost in the idea of a well-dressed meal. Let's refocus that wandering mind. Picture the corridor filled with the hushed rustle of silk and the oddly charming odor of freshly waxed floors clashing humorously with the faint scent of boiled cabbage. Ah yes, the culinary dichotomy of the great ocean liner.
It's as if someone threw cooking classes, a circus, and an ill-advised cooking competition into a blender labeled the High Seas Experience. As you make your way down this narrow, carpeted haven, just be careful not to bump into folks who might be more interested in gossip than graceful maneuvering. After all, every eavesdropper listens with the intent of gathering juicy gossip. It's like an unspoken social challenge. If you don't come back with at least 3 pieces of meaty news, are you even trying? Sounds like modern social media, doesn't it? Now, as you turn back to acknowledge the steward, you notice something peculiar. Is that a twinkle of mischief in his eye? Surely his crisp uniform isn't hiding secret, rebellious thoughts waiting to explode into spontaneous pirate theatrics on the main deck. Perhaps the Titanic's crew harbored wild dreams about a return to the gallant high seas, where they could trade in the polished aesthetics for some raucous pirating, with a side of freshly prepared gruel, mind you. Nevertheless, life in this magnificent floating hotel is oddly serene, vibrating on the wavelength of hope, excitement, and just a hint of mild absurdity. Signs of that splendid era materialize around you, from the gentle hum of electric lights overhead to elaborate artworks hanging with so much pomp that they seem to intimidate the very walls they adorn. So let's remember, while on the surface these glossy corridors might appear as mere facades, what lies beneath creates the real story. Life aboard Titanic's second-class cabin is but a corridor of cozy escapades filled with oddball stewards and whimsical adventures where manners, laughter, and even boiled cabbage mingle in hilarious camaraderie. As you drift deeper into the welcoming absurdity of this
grand vessel, leave behind your worries about icebergs or reality and simply embrace the reassuring, if slightly bizarre, charm of the Titanic's second-class life, complete with splendid stewards and all the delicious misunderstandings of a closed-in corridor. Chapter 10. The Grand Main Staircase. Elegant Descents into Laughter. Ah, the grand main staircase of Titanic's second class. It rises majestically, 3 decks high, a shimmering beacon of opulence in soft electric light, just like your Aunt Mabel's living room after 3 too many cups of herbal tea. Picture it, a finely ornate oak balustrade, masterfully carved, twisting and curving its way up with more swagger than a pair of peacocks on roller skates. You can almost hear the timbers whisper secrets about that infamous iceberg. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. As you stand at its base, the air is thick with the mingling aromas of fresh varnish and slightly overcooked cabbage wafting through from the dining room. What a delightful olfactory layer cake you've stumbled into. A scent profile that's half, "We have electric lights, are we not fabulous?" and half, "Excuse me, did you say boiled cabbage?" Never have contrasting smells conspired in such harmony to describe the human experience aboard this magnificent behemoth. Now, if you were to take a leisurely stroll up the staircase, which you totally should, imagine the soft, plush carpet beneath your feet, offering a cushioned embrace reminiscent of a happy cloud. However, with every step, you might entertain the thought that somewhere a shoemaker is rolling in his grave. How can anyone manage such elegance and still trot around in shoes that look like they were crafted from leftover tent flaps? But wait, as you ascend, you step aside to let a rather glamorous couple glide past. Clad in their Sunday best, which at this point might as well be the Oscar-winning outfits of ocean-faring fashion, the gentleman tips his top hat with an exaggerated flourish, making it seem as if he's battling an imaginary windstorm. You squint slightly to see if he's hiding a mischievous grin, as if he's simultaneously engaged in a high-stakes game of "Don't spill my champagne." What are the odds that they'll topple over and spill their exquisite drinks all over that plush carpet? Speaking of beverages, let's chat about what the second class was consuming. While you might think it's all fine dining and champagne, let's face it, that was only mostly true. I mean, people were having more pudding than anyone would care to admit.
Can we even fathom the scenarios where someone leaned into their dessert and exclaimed, "Yes, this pudding is my new life philosophy. Nothing can be greater"? Kind of makes you wonder how you could pull off a jacket potato at your next fancy dinner party, doesn't it? The main dining room was indeed a delightful spectacle, an animated theater of clinking silverware and laughter that would rival a Shakespearean comedy. Could you imagine being seated next to the group of overly serious gentlemen debating the merits of, say, the knotted tie versus the bow tie? It's a battle as old as time, and every bit as riveting as an old-fashioned
Debate about whether wet socks are actually a form of art. But, oh, how could we forget? Stepping back into the staircase scene, you notice a group of excited children determinedly racing up and down the plush carpet, their laughter echoing like optimistic whales singing on a sunny day. One child, a clever little rascal, slips ever so artfully past a stern steward, maneuvering with the deftness of a secret agent. Is there a hidden prize for best dodge, you wonder, half chuckling, half cringing at the thought of the steward's stern face transforming into the kind of fatherly grin you might find on a dad who's just been outsmarted by a toddler for the 50th time. As you lean against the polished oak of the balustrade, there's something for everyone in this vibrant tapestry of ship life. The second-class passengers aren't the nobility, but they might as well be, engulfed in a genteel atmosphere that feels less like a ferry ride and more like a complex culinary drama unfolding at the world's weirdest dinner party. Perhaps there was even an ongoing contest of who could make the best whale noises while trying to enjoy dinner rolls. Spoiler alert, everyone failed spectacularly and out of sync. Suddenly, a distant sound breaks through the chatter. The cheerful plink of music wafts down from the upper decks. It's the second-class orchestra, belting out tunes that might make you sway irrespective of your intentions. "Oh, I could dance to this," you catch yourself thinking, as you realize you'd become that person, lost somewhere between contemplating the meaning of existence and deciding whether to attempt the foxtrot beneath a chandelier that might be more suitable for a ballroom. As the last notes swirl around like leaves in an autumn breeze, you feel the palpable excitement in the air. This is a space where dreams are born and laughter floats amid the gentle rock of the ship. The tapestry of life aboard Titanic is rich, woven from stories of love, dreams, and the occasional mishap. So here you are, cozied up in the grand staircase of Titanic's second class. Be mindful of the shoemakers down below, the stewards who are doing their best to maintain some semblance of order amongst the revelry, and the faffing about of children caught up in their whimsical world of play. You've never quite experienced such a delightful absurdity, and you can't help but chuckle at the whole scenario. Perhaps it's good that icebergs are not part of the guest list here. As you prepare to ascend once more, your heart is light, your spirits high, and ever so slightly, you wonder what stories this staircase has to tell of all who have traversed it. You might even be tempted to add your own little anecdote or two, preferably without any spills on the carpet. But then again, who knows what delicious chaos awaits just around the corner? Chapter 11. On the prom deck. Nautical daydreams amidst choppy waters. Hey guys, welcome aboard this surreal voyage through time and history, where the waves of the past are as choppy as a toddler with a sugar rush at a birthday party. Tonight, we're exploring something smoother than a jazz saxophonist on a Friday night: Titanic's second class. Now, before you try to Google some disaster statistics, take a deep breath and relax. Let's find out just how cozy life could be for the well-to-do working stiffs of April 1912, before the Iceberg turned their grand adventure into an unusually chilly dinner party. If you find this mildly interesting, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Only if you actually enjoy this, of course. What's that? Does your neighbor's cat think you're crazy now? Great! Dimming the lights and getting comfortable while contemplating the mysteries of history is how you truly embark on a cozy adventure. So, let me ask you,
Ever wondered what it must have been like to sip Earl Grey tea while standing on a ship, bobbing like a cork in a bathtub? Or how about what it felt like peering through the windows at a seemingly infinite gray expanse, all while sporting your best sophisticated traveler outfit? And who, pray tell, decided that boiled cabbage was an acceptable form of onboard entertainment? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 1912 aboard the RMS Titanic, that monumental marvel of engineering which boasted about being unsinkable, that self-proclaimed status being like someone at a party insisting they absolutely could juggle flaming swords. You step out onto the prom deck, and there it is, the magnificent ocean stretching for miles, a choppy expanse that would make a casual surfboard user weep for their stylish board shorts. Now, as you lean against the polished railing, the salty breeze gently tousles your hair like an overly affectionate puppy. The air is filled with that unique nautical aroma. Think fish tacos mixed with an inexplicable hint of candle wax. An oddly comforting blend that lets you know you are not at some dingy dock, but sailing through the fabulous world of early 20th century luxury. How splendid, how delightfully absurd. The ship creaks and sways effortlessly through the waves, cutting through the water with all the grace of a cat trying to leap onto a counter. You can't help but marvel at the contradiction. There's the ocean, crashing and frothing with what could only be described as a slightly impatient huff. And here's the Titanic, riding that turmoil like a seasoned rodeo star. If this ship were a person, it would be the overly confident friend who insists they can totally handle the next round of karaoke, only to end up singing off-key like a banshee in distress. But wait, as you gaze dreamy-eyed into the distance, you notice something curious. All around you, fellow second-class passengers are perfectly maintaining their composure. It's a tightrope act of etiquette, as if everyone has received the same memo instructing them to act as though they were sipping their favorite whiskey in the drawing room. Keep calm and pretend you've experienced worse, they whisper silently into their cups. Ever felt like that at a family gathering? Deep down, you totally get it. In this moment of serene absurdity, you overhear a couple nearby discussing how they'll spend their evening. "Well, Richard," says one elegant lady with a fashionably oversized hat, "I could only imagine that absolutely nothing could disrupt the utter tranquility of our journey." Ha! Famous last words, right? Meanwhile, a toddler darts past the two, chasing a bouncing ball as if it were the last cookie at the orphanage. And you can almost hear Richard's disdainful gulp. And much like that, smooth sailing turns into a laugh-inducing chaos under the brightly fettered stars. One passenger leans into the conversation, analyzing the waves like a seasoned meteorologist. Did you know that those waves are approximately 5 feet high? Just enough to bring a splash of excitement. Their friend nods sagely, a look of utter gravitas painted across their features, as though this knowledge could win them a Nobel Prize in sea shenanigans. It's a charming thought, really. Imagine presenting that at an academic conference beside a poster on quantum physics. Speaking of excitement, as you continue your observation, the calming sounds of the prom deck's symphony fill your ears. The gentle swish of the ocean, the rustle of posh clothing reminiscent of crinkly potato bags, and the occasional whistle of someone trying, perhaps a bit too hard, to impress their neighbor with an impromptu haiku on the virtues of sea travel. Ah yes, the sea, vast and ominous, and not just an elaborate backdrop for your afternoon daydreaming. Allow me to paint a vivid picture of the waves, a gray expanse oscillating rhythmically like an old grandfather falling in and out of sleep during a lecture about agricultural advancements. You might just wonder how many people have lost their dignity in that embrace. Spoiler, it's more than anyone dares to admit. The ship continues to glide along smoothly, smoother than a politician dodging a scandal. Each moment drips with an absurd serenity, so neatly wrapped in a layer of luxurious linens. And oh, that cozy feeling. You're enveloped in an atmosphere thicker than Aunt Edna's secret recipe for moose stew, as threads of laughter intertwine with whispered secrets and the soft clinking of porcelain cups. Were they having as much fun as you? Or were they all just woefully unprepared for the rocky ride ahead? With the waves lapping contently against the hull, you realize you're not just an observer of history. No, you've become part of a whimsical time capsule, floating upon narratives as rich as the cocoa in your late-night snack. Awash with absurdity and laughter, you snuggle.
Back, ready to drift comfortably into this historical dream, like a lazy puppy in a sunbeam. Chapter 12. The Musical Soiree. Serendipity in Second Class. As you wander deeper into the splendid embrace of the Titanic's second class, a delightful sound tickles the air, wrapping around you like a warm blanket on a chilly night. It's coming from the saloon, where a small group of musicians has settled in, with their instruments gleaming under the soft, diffused light, almost like they're auditioning for an advertisement on the benefits of proper lighting. You pause to take it all in. Here they are, serenading passengers with the cheerful strains of Schumann's Happy Farmer. Not exactly the kind of tune you'd expect to be played on a ship destined for a rather unfortunate encounter with an iceberg. But here we are. More like Happy Farmer turned Unfortunate Sailor, if you catch my drift. The musicians, all impeccably dressed, are being every bit as heroic as that one friend who insists on taking the stairs just to burn off the last slice of pizza. Except, they're actually making a good choice. The violins sway as gracefully as a dandelion in an unexpected gust, while the piano plays in perfect harmony with the laughter and conversation swirling around the room. Can you smell it? That faint aroma of polished wood mingling with whatever delightful concoction is being served up by the ship's kitchens? Is it stew? Maybe something exotic like lobster thermidor? But you have a sneaking suspicion it's more likely something that would make a five-star chef cringe. Boiled cabbage seems all too probable. But fear not. It's quite likely the musicians are here to distract you from whatever mystery meal awaits. As you sink into one of the plush, velvety chairs, you realize that this is not merely a meal, it's a life choice. You're in the presence of a culinary roulette wheel, and you savor the anticipation. Will the next dish bring joy, or a surprise visit from the ship's doctor? A legend states that second-class passengers usually liked to pretend they were having an extraordinary time, while secretly hoping for tastier morsels that would never arrive. Engaging in good-natured banter, the musicians play on, each note bouncing through the saloon like a young boy on his first bicycle ride, and soon crashing into the flower beds. There's an effortless charm in their camaraderie. It's clear they know how to bring joy even on a floating behemoth that, while luxurious, also resembles a highly opinionated whale in formal wear, grumbling about life in the depths of the Atlantic. And speaking of charm, don't you wish you had a personal string quartet? Just imagine how many mundane tasks could suddenly be turned into epic events. Joyce, from accounting, would be totally mind-blown, whipping out her dusty spreadsheet while your musicians serenade her like she's the queen of the world. A sigh, for sure, but not just any sigh. A sigh accompanied by an ornamentally flourished violin run that simply make Excel seemed more, regal. But back to our cozy second-class passengers. Here they are, laughing and toasting with the finest cups of tea that you can't quite see but can absolutely imagine, thanks to the imaginative barriers built between the 20th century and historical reality. You could swear they even have fancy little hats resting on their heads, teetering subtly, giving each conversation that dramatic flair. It's like watching a scene straight out of a soap opera, as the Titanic turns, if you will, filled with unrequited love and way too many plot twists involving questionable seafood choices. The music swells, and suddenly your heart beats a tad faster,
almost in sync with the lively tunes. Someone nearby leans in and says, "Do you think they'll play a jig next?" And you can't help but nod enthusiastically, picturing yourself swirling around like an overzealous dancer at a wedding, trying desperately to avoid stepping on someone's toes. But let's be honest, the more creative among us would surely take this opportunity to break out a questionable line dance. Oh, how delightful to be that free-spirited soul soaring through the parlor, 2 left feet and all. As the responding laugh encircles the room like an oversized hug, you take a moment to reflect on the absurdity of this all. Who would think that beneath all the finery, a dance hall of second-class passengers could be so rife with exuberance and ridiculousness? Each chuckle drips with delightful irony. Here we are, luxuriating in anticipation of our imminent disaster, trying to make this moment the best of our lives, while the universe chuckles knowingly. Will those next bites of boiled cabbage turn into a culinary masterpiece? Or a disaster resembling last night's takeout? Only time will tell. But for now, let's embrace the music, the laughter, and the cozy camaraderie aboard this magnificent ship. Moonlight dances off the waves like droplets of liquid silver, captivating each heart with its shimmering promise. Perhaps the iceberg is just another way of saying, life's full of surprises. And as you sit back, fingers grazing the soft upholstery, and allow the symphony of sounds to carry you away, you might find yourself drifting deeper into pleasant dreams of second-class life, where worries float away like that charmingly misguided seagull trying to dive for a fish a tad too deep. In this moment, everything feels right. The universe hums a gentle tune, and your heart whispers, just hold your cup tightly. Keep expecting the unexpected, and you might even stumble upon your own small version of Titanic bliss. Now, if only someone would pass those mysterious hearty snacks, we'd really have something to celebrate, wouldn't we?
Chapter 13. Serendipity and Coins. A Night of Tipsy Tunes. As you nestle deeper into the vibrant life aboard the Titanic's second class, you find yourself swept up in a revelry more infectious than a spontaneous dance party at a retirement home. Picture this. A delightful band is serenading passengers, enchanting the atmosphere like confetti launched from a joy cannon. Ever wondered how tipsy sailors could make a ship feel like a floating fete? Well, strap in, because the musical soiree is just honing its appetite for laughter and absurdity. The lively notes flutter through the air, wrapping around an eclectic assembly of passengers. You've got men in tweed suits attempting to sip tea without inadvertently drenching their jackets, and women in walking dresses that swish elegantly, yet somehow scream, "I'm completely unprepared for anything that isn't formal," with every swaying step. Children dart around like hyperactive squirrels, probably in desperate search of misplaced coins, because nothing says, "Let's have fun," like crude scavenger hunts for spare change. Right here, amidst the laughter and swirling dresses, you realize every second-class passenger has embraced the art of tip-giving as if it were an Olympic sport. Lunchtime banter is punctuated by drops of coins into a small satchel, much like how modern-day professionals might drop snacks into a glass bowl with hopes of later justifying a binge fest as networking. You know, if I just tip the band 5 cents, I'm basically winning at life right now. The musicians, already playing their hearts out, seem to know a secret that no one else has quite grasped. They're taking their chairs and transforming them into thrones of merriment, raising their instruments like royalty, those violins glinting brighter than someone's overly confident vacation selfie. The harpist plucks strings and somehow manages to evoke sounds that feel like subtle invitations to dance, while the piano grumbles good-naturedly in the background, maybe muttering, "Don't look at me, I'm just here for the snacks." Imagine how those second-class passengers muster the fervor to add a few coins to the satchel with every catchy note. It's almost like a game. I'll drop in my dime, but only if I can capture a moment of joy in return. You can picture them weighing their generosity on invisible scales, believing that every glimmering coin contributes to a spectacular cascade of joy that, let's be honest, desperately needs to be fully tipped into the ship's brewing laughter pot. The warm aroma of the galley dances in the background, trying to sneak past the music and the clinking of teacups, inevitably drumming up curious thoughts about the food about to come. Will it be as legendary as the Titanic itself, or destined to go down in history as the culinary equivalent of soggy toast? Was that garlic butter you caught whiffing, or simply high hopes mingling with the nautical air? The culinary roulette feels oddly comforting in that buttery chaos, like waking up after a sleepover with friends, yet realizing you've somehow become the designated adult. The bewilderment is real. As coins topple into the satchel, someone nearby quips, "If I keep tossing in these cents, you think I'll get my own rendition of When the Saints Go Marching In?" Ah, delightful optimism. But let's face it, on a ship of this size, you may end up with When the Waitstaff Go Marching Out, leaving you with nothing but boiled cabbage and a 5-minute appointment with the ship nurse. A small price to pay for this unique entertainment experience. Just when you think this cozy gathering couldn't be more charming, the children's laughter erupts nearby. They squeal and clamber into the front row of seats, launching an unexpected bidding war for who could catch the most falling coins. Each tiny hand a determined money magnet ready to claim victory. It's adorably chaotic, like watching puppies relentlessly chase after that single leaf, taunting them in the breeze. And you wonder if this must have felt oddly akin to a 20th century version of The Price is Right, set on high seas, only without the obnoxious host, and also less actual prizes. The mood ebbs and flows like gentle ocean waves, an ever-so-coiling swell, and within this warm atmosphere it's hard not to feel part of a collective heartbeat of humanity. They share secrets, laughter, and hopes, as if the delicate balance of life aboard Titanus itself can be solved over a stolen lyre note or two. Strangely enough, you find yourself smiling, surrounded by lively callbacks of joy. The unexpected charm of tip-giving reveals itself. You're connected in your admiration of music, life, and, of course, the shared consciousness of simple pleasures. It's a culture quirk of cozy camaraderie, where laughter and melodies mingle, creating a joyful tapestry woven right before your sleepy eyes. But don't be fooled by my abstract musings just yet. The music carries on, as does laughter. In this bubble of merriment, somehow detached from what lies ahead, you float blissfully through an atmosphere that seems to undermine all notions of impending disaster. The irony of bliss on transatlantic travel is ripe and practically woven into the delicate fabric of laughter. It's the plot twist designed at the cosmic level while you raise your wide eyes towards the night sky, pondering life's greatest mysteries. So here you sit, entranced in the time when Tippapaloozas were an actual sport, and amidst harmony, the sense of impending avoidance wrapped snugly around the night. Coins glint back at you in their satchel like the many stars sprinkled above against the vast canvas of night, reminding you that in life, it's all about the little moments, even while you're cruising toward uncertainty. For the night is still young, dear friend, and who knows what else the evening holds.
As laughter dances in the air, the tender embrace of music and goodwill carries you away, much like the Titanic itself. Only let's hope the worst edges of adventure stay blissfully unaware for just a while longer. Chapter 14. The Serene Swaddle of Knowledge, nestled in the second-class library. As you meander through the softly humming heart of Titanic's second-class library, you feel the serene weight of quiet contemplation wrap around you like a particularly snuggly blanket. Imagine, if you will, a room that feels like a warm hug from your favorite grandmother, if your grandmother were a ship, and not just any ship, but one destined to be legendary, sans the iceberg and emotional trauma, of course. The library, decked out in rich, deep green upholstery, beckons you into its plush embrace, Ah yes, those armchairs. You settle into one, feeling the velvet smoothness envelop you, like an enthusiastic cat that's really invested in making you its warm, cozy living space. Each chair silently pleads for you to kick your shoes off and forget that you even own socks, a win-win situation if there ever was one. Before you lies a collection of books that would make the literary gods weep with envy. Perhaps you reach for a dog-eared volume of Sherlock Holmes, tucked into the corner like a clever little detective, there to unveil its mysteries. Let's face it, who wouldn't want a sidekick like Watson? He's there to keep you from making false accusations about your crabby neighbor, or worse, your cat, who definitely did not eat your leftover caviar. Really, it wasn't the cat, it was your second cousin, who's now upgraded themselves to gastronomic artist. You know the type. In this floating library, the atmosphere smells of polished wood and ink, a heady blend that invites you to ponder life's pressing questions. For instance, why is it that a ship traveling at such magnificent speed still hasn't improved the whole getting stuck in one place for a week conundrum? Or have you ever considered that no one really talks about the physics behind libraries on ships? It's like they simply assumed wood floats, therefore wisdom is safe? Spoiler alert, it really isn't. Gentle sounds ripple through the library as passengers exchange whispers only seasoned conspirators would understand. Why, that is definitely the wrong answer to the whodunit. You'd think they were discussing who'd absconded with the last sausage roll at tea time. Onlookers would try to decipher which mystery they were unriddling. It's like watching chess at a circus, exhilarating and slightly baffling at the same time. It's a peculiar, euphoric blend of intellect and cozy warmth, merging seamlessly with the ship's rocking lull that could make a baby giraffe fall asleep without even trying. You can just about hear the gentle creak of the ship as it sails gleefully across the ocean, each wave whispering sweet nothings to the vessel, promising calm horizons and lovely dreams. It's the kind of ambiance that would have even the grumpiest of scholars nodding off into philosophical debates about the absurdity of life. But let's pause for a moment, shall we? The great question looms. Have you ever daydreamed about moments when you could close a book dramatically and sigh philosophically while everyone else looks around confused? Because here, in the second-class library, you have that opportunity. Picture it. You close the book on a chapter of thrilling chase scenes, take a breath, look around at your fellow passengers staring at you and think, they must know I'm solving the greater mysteries of the universe. Spoiler alert, they don't. Mostly they are wondering who's going to borrow your last biscuit. You indulge in your surroundings, taking an inventory of the passengers fluttering about like butterflies in an unseasonably warm spring day. Some are tasked with the undeniably Herculean job of keeping their hairstyles intact as they bumble down the passageways. You chuckle. Yes, hats and hairstyles may look grand in theory, but the oceanic breeze is not exactly a friend of fashionable flounce. And oh, the discussions. You can hear snippets of arguments about the merits of classic literature versus the hot new sensation. Have you read Tolstoy? So heavy. But also, can we agree his math on love is a bit wonky? The shrillness of literary debate rising above the gentle swaying of armchairs adds a certain charming theater, as if you're watching a rerun of a soap opera, a cozy drama wrapped in velvety green upholstery, where reality is suspended and critique tastes like buttery crackers. As you thumb through pages, the ship itself seems to lean in closer. It's as if it knows you've stumbled into the world of suspense, where every chapter holds the weight of secrets untold and hints of cozy comfort. You can almost hear the yarn of tales unravel as dicey mysteries unfold. Could this really be all happening aboard a ship with an unfortunate date with destiny? But hush, for now. That ship hasn't yet written its chapter of history. Let's cherish this moment in our reading nook, where confounding mysteries are mere amusement, and all you have to worry about tonight is whether your armchair is too comfy to leave. As you savor this meditative interlude, it becomes clear. Life aboard Titanic's second class is like the world's quietest surprise party, filled with delightful company, wrapped in literary comforts, sprinkled with the salt of the ocean. And who could resist that? So, relax, embrace the serene warmth of this moment, and let that delightful uncertainty dwell just outside the door of the library. For soon, you'll find yourself swept away in stories, thoughts, and whispers of camaraderie, feeling light as a feather and just as pleasantly unaware of what tomorrow may bring.
Chapter 15. The Great Book Distribution Adventure. As you settle deeper into the velvet embrace of Titanic's second-class library, a delightful commotion begins to unfold. Enter the attentive steward, resplendent in his crisp uniform, like a dapper penguin on a mission. He glides by the shelves, which are lined with books just waiting to be freed from their resting places, much like a cat impatiently awaiting dinner. It's a scene you didn't know you needed until now, and one that could practically cause a thrill in the most stoic of souls. He approaches each passenger with the deftness of a ballet dancer, maintaining a perfect balance of grace and urgency. "Good evening. May I interest you in the works of Dickens, or perhaps something that might make you question your life choices, like War and Peace?" He smiles, a warmth radiating from him like freshly baked bread. You can't help but ponder the incredible array of choices before you. Ever found yourself in a bookstore, weighing the existential gravitas of Russian literature against the latest How to Train Your Dragon book? Here, all dilemmas are left behind, and you're suddenly living in a world of literary abundance. It's like a fancy buffet, except instead of food, you have metaphors, similes, and plenty of words that, let's be honest, might make your head spin faster than a tornado in a trailer park. As you watch, a passenger tentatively raises a hand, asking, "What's the recommended reading for contemplating poor life decisions?" The steward grins, his eyebrows arching like those of a cartoonish villain. "Ah, A Tale of Two Cities, perfect for reflecting on the choices that brought you to an iceberg floating in the middle of the North Atlantic. The laughter that echoes through the room could melt frozen hearts, except here, hearts are quite safe, tucked warmly under layers of wool and woolen ties." Naturally, this browsing for books experience also comes with its share of absurdities. You find yourself staring at a dusty tome, The Art of Legal Fishing During the Victorian Era. Did people really need to know how to fish legally? Did they fear pirates were lurking in the waters, ready to declare, "You have violated the code of fishery laws," while wearing pirate hats and shaking their fists? The thought makes you chuckle quietly, momentarily forgetting the seriousness of impending global turmoil. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on the nature of this literary endeavor. Ever wondered if there are secret clubs formed on the Titanic to debate the merits of each book? Picture passengers crouched in corners, whispering to each other about Robinson Crusoe's questionable life choices on a deserted island, unleashing dramatic exclamations, a little like middle school musicals breaking out in the quietest library. As these contemplative scenes unfold before you, you can smell the faint aroma of well-loved pages, mingling with the warm scent of polished wood. The air, dense with the amazing power of words, feels rich enough to fill your lungs with literary insights and curiosities. You imagine the reverberations of countless conversations echoing off these walls. Whispered secrets about the latest gossip in upper-crust society and heated debates on Victorian customs, with added theatrics for flavor. Despite the pedantic nature of some titles, there's also a delightful spontaneity akin to selecting snacks from a vending machine. Do I want philosophical inquiry or a light romance? Decisions. It's an internal dilemma that every modern-day procrastinator knows all too well, faced with the harsh reality of, which fluffy novel will let me completely escape reality?
In the warm sanctuary of the library, passengers peruse books like they're hunting treasures in a whimsical wonderland. You can almost hear their sighs of relief as they discover a forgotten classic or stumble upon a new author who resonates with their very soul, or at least momentarily distracts them from that ill-timed iceberg discussion. As your gaze flits from one reader to another, you notice a young lady, poised and elegant, flipping through pages as if conducting an orchestra. You wonder if she thinks of the awkward moments she might unveil in her own story, like when she once tripped over her cat while attempting an impromptu pirouette for her non-existent audience. The ballroom of her imagination is a wonderful place, littered with forgotten dreams, possibly featuring a cat who thwarts her every move. And oh, the soundscape. A soothing collage of whispers fills the library, interspersed with the gentle thud of open books, which, let's be honest, can occasionally sound like the ship's way of reminding you to turn to the next chapter or find something to ponder while the world fades away. If only life could have a manual, though then you'd probably need a detailed index, and who wants to suss out page 63 every time? The atmosphere effortlessly dances between hilarity and introspection, each passenger lost in their literary cocoon. You can barely contain your glee as a nearby gentleman shuffles through the stack, lamenting that no one's ever made a meme about how reading too many books can lead to dangerously lofty ideals, like believing you could survive a Titanic-like journey using only your charm and your bountiful knowledge of shipbuilding. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work that way. As the steward continues his charming quest, it occurs to you that Titanic's library truly represents the very essence of what's comfortable and cozy. A gentle nod to a world nearly lost to time, where conversation and storytelling bind everyone together like well-loved knotwork on a tapestry. Who knows? Perhaps in this floating sanctuary, while sipping tea and discussing the absurdities of life, people can momentarily forget their catastrophic date with destiny. But
Remember, dear listener, savor this sleep-inducing juxtaposition, as tomorrow may bring more than a few unexpected surprises, including, quite infamously, icebergs. Chapter 16. Breakfast under the electric glow. Hey guys, welcome back to your cozy hideaway aboard Titanic's luxurious second class. Tonight, we'll embark on a journey more delightful than the first awkward date you had. Yes, we're diving into breakfast aboard a floating palace, aka the grand dining saloon of the Titanic. But let's face it, even if the food is spellbinding, you might be more interested in pondering some pressing questions. What mythical concoction led to the birth of scrambled eggs that seemed to be invented by wizards? And why does toast always look like it's sneering at your attempts to butter it? Does the scent of freshly baked croissants ever evoke even a hint of guilt? Like you're taking bites out of history's finest croissant-stuffed extravaganza? Make sure to settle into your blankets and dim the lights. Unless you happen to be a Viking raider in search of plunder, in which case, congratulations! You've just woken up in April 1912 on the most famous ship in history, where luxury oozes like jam from a badly packed pastry. And I hate to break it to you, but we're just a smidge away from an iceberg doing its best tightrope act. So, let's take a deep breath and head to breakfast. As you step into the stunning dining saloon for the first meal of the day, it feels like walking into a gilded treasure chest. The oak paneling glimmers in the soft morning light, while the brass fittings shimmer expertly, as if they've bathed in self-confidence overnight. The air is thick with aromas that dance like they're trying to seduce your senses. Bread baking, butter melting, and the all-important scent of coffee that promises to awaken the depth of your mediocre dreams. You glance around the room, and your gaze falls on the bright electric lights overhead. They flicker like stars desperately trying to find their spot in the universe, each bulb a soft reminder that, yes, we're living in the future. Yes, you could beam like a contented sun as you recall the times you fumbled with oil lamps, waiting for the slow realization that your home did indeed resemble a cave, complete with the smell of wet sock and existential dread. As you find a seat, you can't help but notice the various characters surrounding you. There's the dapper gentleman at the table beside you, adjusting his tie like he's auditioning for a role in the most overdressed Titanic passenger contest. He gestures animatedly, explaining the relevance of this morning's toast as if it were a historical event akin to the signing of the Declaration of Independence. You wonder, is that truly worthy of grandeur? Your own plate arrives, and it almost feels like a scene from a grand play where the mice have orchestrated the world's most delightful menu. Fluffy scrambled eggs, golden brown toast, and a side of bacon sizzling like it just wrapped up a hot date. Yes, a hot date with the frying pan. Because what's more romantic than that? You pause for a moment. What kind of brilliance could possibly have led to a recipe that makes eggs taste like they were serenaded by angels themselves? As you take that first bite, an explosion of flavor takes over. It's like a symphony in your mouth, each note playing deliciously together, begging the question, are you truly in a dining saloon? Or have you stepped into a food dreamland? With each forkful, you reminisce about your own culinary adventures, like the time you tried cooking a 5-course dinner, only to end up with takeout containers surrounding you like a fortress of regret. And oh, the laughter of fellow diners fills the air like the background track of a rom-com. Conversations swirl about the latest gossip, with everyone trying to sound more important than the next, with dramatic retellings of their lives. One lady recounts her recent trip to Paris like she was dodging cannon fire, while the gentleman across from her treats his toast with the adoration usually reserved for royal events, gleefully summoning the waitress to help him salvage his socioeconomic discussions before they take another nosedive. It's astonishing how the frozen world outside seems an infinitesimal concern when bacon is doing its best impression of everything good. You lean back in your chair, noticing the crew gliding through the room like graceful birds, ensuring coffee cups are filled and nothing is left amiss. And one can't help but be reminded that one of these stewards probably has grand dreams of being the greatest of waiters. The kind of waiters who hold the power to make even the most mundane broiled fish seem like it's about to receive an Oscar. Now, whether it was true or not, local lore whispers that somewhere in the kitchen, a chef was perfecting the world's finest soufflé, a culinary feat considered by some to be as treacherous as walking a tightrope over a pit of alligators. As fables go, he tried to replicate the elusive dish, only to have the soufflé rise to absurd proportions, presumably filling the entire kitchen with clouds of regret and powdered sugar. You can only chuckle at the thought, envisioning culinary battles fought in the name of breakfast perfection, with chefs dodging flour bombs while seeking flavor enlightenment. Sinking deeper into joy, you can't help but reflect on the grand tapestry of your surroundings, an overwhelming sense of warmth, buoyed by laughter, rich narratives, and moments that feel tragically fleeting. Somehow, all these cozy souls sharing tables of indulgence are barreling toward an adventure that could rival even the most eager tales of misadventure. A toast to comfortable breakfasts before the impending drama ensues, you think. This is indeed life aboard the Titanic, an artfully orchestrated chaos where the food is good, the company delightful, and honestly, how could you ask for a more splendid morning? It's a life you wouldn't trade with the Iceberg. After all, Can't make this up. As your second helping of eggs manifests, one question seems particularly urgent. Why, oh why, is brunch still not an Olympic sport? Chapter 17. A Cozy Table in Second Class. Hey guys, welcome back to your cushy corner of late Edwardian luxury on board the Titanic. Tonight, we find ourselves nestled in one of the most jovial dining saloons of all time. Yes, we're about to join a charming array of eccentric characters. Think less royal banquet and more spirited sitcom. Prepare yourselves, because despite the elegance around you, there's something surprisingly relatable happening at this shared table. Let this sink in.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to sit across from a stranger, share food, and somehow end up discussing the merits of mustaches versus beards, as if they were engaged in some life-altering debate? Or have you ever found yourself trying to maintain decorum while someone loudly recounts details of last night's poorly attempted card game that ended in a spat over milk? Welcome to the intimate yet ridiculous world of Titanic's second-class dining, where laughter flows like the plentiful claret. It's April 1912, and you've just woken up aboard the Grand Titanic, that gleaming marvel of human engineering, just a hop, skip, and ice cube from one of history's most infamous maritime moments. But before we think about icebergs, breathe. Yes, right here, right now, the world is your oyster. To your left, you have a cheerful Russian bookkeeper, his mustache twirling like a proud flag. And to your right, a boisterous party returning from Guernsey, full of charm, whimsy, and probably a tale or two about missing socks. Let's take a seat at that shared table. Just avoid the awkward eye contact if you can. Let's talk about the layers of life unfolding here. Close your eyes and imagine the fragrant aroma of coffee swirling in the air, beckoning you like an old friend who just had a fabulous glow-up. Your eyes flicker around the shiny saloon, soaking up the stunning wood paneling that feels like it has seen everything, from rom-coms to scandalous squabbles. The light bounces off the brass fittings, which, by the way, are entirely unstressed by lumens, showcasing the idea that luxury is not just something you inflate with air, but a state of being. Now, dear listener, you find yourself seated across from the spirited, bearded giant returning from Guernsey. He is recounting tales of a particularly memorable sheep missing its mate, and how it apparently led not just to a romantic crisis among the barn animals, but ultimately a quest for local titles of nobility. You quietly question whether anyone ever truly needs that level of drama over bread rolls, but you can't help but lean in. After all, you're here for the show just as much as the breakfast. Speaking of breakfast, as plates laden with fluffy scrambled eggs and glistening bacon arrive, let's pause for a second. Does anyone else picture their last attempt at brunch? You know, that time you thought you could recreate a fancy breakfast? You ended up with smoke alarm symphonies and half-cooked
sausages, while your friends turned your tiny kitchen into a comedic battleground. Well, in this dining room, culinary victories abound. As you take a bite, that explosion of flavor pops in your mouth. It's as if each little morsel is saying, "Hello world, we're awesome," and totally unchained by low-budget brunches of your shared past. The eggs are so light, they could practically float away if not tethered by the crispy bacon's charming grapple of gravity. A symphony in your mouth, indeed. And what's this? The cheerful Russian bookkeeper, with a love for conversation that rivals any megaphone enthusiast, jumps in with a diatribe about the virtues of accounting, gesticulating widely as if he were recreating a dramatic opera scene about taxes that could send even the staunchest of numbers out of the room. You can't help but chuckle at this amalgamation of characters. What is a personality cocktail if not a twist of bizarre humor spiced with hints of irritation? The boisterous party from Guernsey shares tales of unexpected weather mishaps that turned their trip into a saga of unexpected goose chasing, resulting in a majesty of slightly damp pants. Picture it, grown adults flailing in the mud like starfish trying to re-establish their land legs, wrangling wayward geese with the combined finesse of a tea kettle. And you're right there, stuck between laughter and absolute disbelief, your coffee almost shooting out of your nose. In moments like these, life aboard the Titanic begins to look suspiciously like a grand reality show, minus the quirky confessional booth, but with every table potentially full of contestants vying for the most whimsical misadventurer title. Somewhere, a thoughtful steward pours fresh tea with a focused determination that most ceilidh dancers would envy, all while your laughter bubbles gently like the much-anticipated after-dinner bubbly. These local dramas play out like an intertwining tapestry, the kind you'd hang on your wall to impress house guests.
except they're way more relatable. Your seatmates are delightful, a bit overwhelming, and remarkably comforting all at once. What could be better than hearty food, coffee that hits the spot, and company that almost feels like a cozy family reunion gone comically awry? Now, as the sumptuous meal draws to a close, you can't help but think to yourself, when does breakfast morph into a slapstick comedy act involving misplaced sheep and exaggerated pontification? Here, you sit on the edge of history, enjoying the quaint insanity of dining before you come face to Iceberg with reality. This indeed is life aboard the Titanic, where one shared table can house an entire world of eccentricities and laughter, reminding us that sometimes the best journeys are not just across oceans, but through the delightful absurdity of human connections. So, as you savor the last bites of your eggs, and the conversations swirl around like a merry-go-round of wit, keep your thoughts in your cozy cocoon of humor and warmth, because it's here, amidst this cacophony of character, that the real essence of adventure lies. Laughter and food serving as faithful companions, guiding someday into the unknown waters ahead. Unknown waters. Chapter 18. A honeymoon of woes and whimsy. All right, cozy comrades, get ready to snuggle in deeper, because tonight we're diving into a whimsy-filled slice of life aboard the Titanic, a place where romance meets the ridiculous, and pigeons might just be honored guests at your dinner table. And oh, who can forget our star couple? A young honeymooning pair from France, utterly wrapped up in each other, barely aware of the second-class ruckus surrounding them. If you think blissful oblivion is only for the dearly in love, wait until you hear their story. Now, before we meander too far down this elegant yet hilarious rabbit hole, let's take a moment to consider your own romantic escapades. Have you ever had a date so awkward that you accidentally ordered the whole meal for your partner instead of yourself? Or imagine you are in a candlelit place and discover that your ex was sitting just a couple of tables over, lurking like a ghost of dates past? Good times, right? Welcome back to a reality where love is grand, but the universe seems to have a sense of humor. Congratulations! You've just woken up aboard the Titanic in April 1912, nestled within the second-class lounge, surrounded by an eclectic mix of personalities that seem pulled straight from a comedy sketch. You can almost hear the ship's whistle in the distance, a sound that says, "All aboard for a wild ride, but let's keep it PG, shall we?" Now, let's take a close look at our lovebirds, a young couple whose enthusiasm for each other is currently outshining even the chandelier glittering overhead. Are they gazing into each other's eyes, you ask? Oh yes, they are. In fact, it appears they've discovered that if you squint real hard, you can somehow convince yourself that the chandelier is just as entrancing as your beloved. Their table is adorned with delightful, mismatched flatware. You know, the kind that has probably survived more meals than your grandmother's special china. The air around them carries a blend of scents, the intoxicating aroma of freshly baked bread mingling harmoniously with the whiff of a rather unfortunate cabbage soup that a nearby passenger just couldn't resist. It's a sensory experience comparable to being wedged in an elevator with an over-enthusiastic chili cook-off contestant. But there they sit, oblivious to it all. Could you imagine their dialogue? "Oh, mon chéri, did you know that cabbage soup has been scientifically proven to be the most romantic of all the soups?" "Ah, but darling, I must object. It lacks the charm of your laughter." And there it is, the world of Titanic romance, where the very act of slurping sounds somehow elegant instead of disastrous. Now picture this. You're seated just a few tables away, listening intently. A boisterous party, previously embroiled in discussions of mustaches versus beards, returns to their tabletop gossip, fully invested in whether the man with the impressive mustache has hidden any secrets within its formidable bush. "Is that a biscuit crumb or a treasure from the past?" they muse, their laughter punctuating the air like the popping of champagne corks. Amid their chatter, feelings of nostalgia hit. How many times have you been so caught up in something that all the noise around you fades into oblivion? It's both beautiful and absurd when you think of it, much like those moments when someone's enthusiasm about cat videos can drown out your very own existential crisis. Meanwhile, our young French couple might have missed the potato peeling contest happening just to their right. Meanwhile, the stewards glide by, pouring tea as if they're secretive wizards casting spells, attempting to enhance the romance with a sprinkle of Earl Grey magic. Will their efforts stem the tide of raucous banter that would make even a Shakespearean play sound subdued? It's a close call. Ponder for a moment. When exactly did eating dinner turn into competitive sports? The gentleman at the back table awkwardly tries to balance his soup on a stack of rolls, while at the same time, his wife's laughter has literally caused one of the potatoes to launch off the table like a cannon in an old-timey farce. It's a melee of culinary chaos mixed with endearing desires, and you're the unsuspecting spectator in this strange manila envelope of life, wondering if you're all just part of a behind-the-scenes reality show. As our honeymooners sip their drinks and the man threatens to take another potato for a test drive, the echoes of laughter intertwine gracefully with romantic whispers. You really can't make it up. In this room, the hustle and bustle become a grand tapestry of life, taken straight from a French comedy, but missing a few plot points. And just as you think it can't get any funnier, a steward stumbles, nearly colliding with our entranced lovers, causing the lady's wine to splash dangerously close to her beloved's morning mustache, giving it a thoroughly unexpected polish. Their shared laughter erupts, the kind that makes you wish all problems could be solved with a dash of vitriol and a splash of good humor. So, there you sit, wrapped in the delightful absurdity of it all. For here aboard the Titanic, blissful love is janitorial, lovebirds are uncrowned royalty, and fine dining is an art made even finer, and often messier, by the antics of life. As echoes of laughter fade into the corners of the saloon, you're left with a warm glow, cradled in both humor and humanity, ready to embrace the whims of fate lurking beyond the next meal, just as it all gets tangled in the comedic cloth of existence. Oh, the irony of it! Just as romance and laughter sweep across the tables, the true adventure awaits just outside those magnificent walls. A tale of ice, fortitude, and a pinch more comedy, if you can imagine that. Chapter 19. The Quest for the Electric Lift. It's time to embark on a journey that's about as smooth as a first date with your future in-laws, navigating the magnificent yet bewildering labyrinth of staircases and corridors aboard the Titanic. You've just woken up in April 1912, and it feels less like a dream and more like a sitcom where everyone forgot their lines. As a passenger seeking the infamous electric lift, a newfangled luxury for second-class travel, you find yourself caught in a delightful and mildly frustrating adventure. First, let's set the scene. You're standing in a corridor, the kind that has more twists and turns than your Aunt Mabel's attempts at cooking. The rich mahogany paneling gleams under the dimmed lights, which flicker like they might just give up on life any moment now. And what's that smell? A blend of oil from the ship's steam engines mingled with the last remnants of someone's unfortunate cabbage soup. It's an aroma that makes you question your life choices, but alas, you soldier on. You might as well have a sense of humor about it. You step forward, equipped with a sense of determination mostly fueled by the concept of never having to haul your luggage any further than necessary. Electric lift, you chant internally, as if it's a magic spell. Because, as we all know, technology can only be trusted if it's got a bit of a magician's flair. Navigating this maze is no small feat. The corridors seem endless. You can almost hear the ship chuckling at your plight, as though it's a playful older sibling watching you attempt to find your way. Left or right, you ponder. This feels like choosing whether to pet a dog or a cat. One will lead to joy, the other to a lifetime of cat hair. You spot a steward passing by.
a dapper fellow in a waistcoat who looks like he's just stepped out of a gentleman's magazine. You muster up your courage and approach him. "Excuse me, do you know where the electric lift is?" you ask, trying to sound calm while your heart is doing a tango in your chest. With a polite smile that could be categorized as urgent yet pleased, he kindly gestures toward a staircase that appears to spiral into the depths of the Titanic itself. "Just through there, sir," he says, "and you can't miss it." As if that were helpful, you think. Well, great. So it's like a treasure hunt, sans map, and with the added risk of dislocating a hip. But before you can express your feelings on the matter, he vanishes quicker than your hopes of finding that lift. Armed with only half a sense of direction and a profound lack of patience, you plunge into the depths of the labyrinth. The atmosphere is alive with a cacophony of laughter and the sounds of cutlery clinking, a delightful choir detailing a world where comfort withstands even the most haphazard of gastronomic disasters. You can almost hear the music, a delightful medley of people attempting to not spill their drinks while navigating the treacherous terrain of mingling with strangers. The hallways twist and turn, the carefully laid carpets seem to conspire against you with their plush softness. Each step feels like you're walking on clouds, a feather floating aimlessly. And yet, the dim light only occasionally catches on the silk ties of men whose styles seem both regal and slightly ridiculous. Didn't he notice all those frayed edges? You wonder, as you dodge a particularly enthusiastic couple arguing over seating arrangements. Then, a misstep. You bump into Mr. Overly Excited from a few tables over, the very same individual whose potato-launching antics you observed just moments ago. "Ah! My sincerest apologies," you exclaim, dodging a fork that he seems intent on leveling at your throat, perhaps indicating his disdain for your directional skills. As you push onward, the faint, mechanical hum of the lift reaches your ears, and there's a flicker of hope. You begin to imagine it, stepping into a shiny box that lifts you between decks like you're in a divine chariot, pampered like the very version of yourself that you have carefully conjured to impress the world. But wait, you consider. Would first-class patrons be there, judging my attire? Suddenly, you feel like that one friend whose entire persona was based on not caring, until they step into a cool gathering and realize they accidentally wore mismatched socks. You shake your head, forcing your mind to refocus. No judging. You're here for a riveting ride, not a fashion critique. As you approach the lift, you spot a sign that seems to be mocking you. Press to summon. Simple enough, yet you stand there momentarily wondering if you should perform a triumphant victory dance or just tap the button like a responsible adult. After all, this is 1912, and you wouldn't want to alarm the nearby Edwardian elite who are undoubtedly devouring 3-course meals fit for kings and queens. You press the button, and the serene sounds of the Titanic seem to hush momentarily, almost holding its breath in anticipation. Ding! The doors swing open with the grace of a ballroom dancer who forgot the steps but is committed to making it look smooth. You step inside, feeling triumphant and bizarrely glamorous, like you've not only found the lift, but also the secret to eternal happiness, or at least a temporary escape from cabbage soup. And as the doors glide shut, sealing you in what feels like a revolving haven of electric luxury, you can't help but think, here's to the power of modern convenience. You might even say it's ahead of its time. With the hum of machinery enveloping you, you can almost envision future travelers contemplating their own adventures in this stunning time capsule. And oh, what an adventure it is. So next time you're standing at an elevator, wondering why it takes so long, just imagine how many lives you've dodged in a turn of the decade. Chapter 20, The Perks of Second-Class Living. Hey guys, tonight we're diving deep into a world so cozy and absurd it makes your couch feel like a medieval torture device. Picture this, the Titanic's second class, a realm where you might be one elevator push away from a full-on waltz with the opulence of the rich, who college interns probably still can't afford to befriend today. So kick back, dim the lights, get that fan blowing on your face like a personal butler, and let's embark on this journey together. But first, let me ask you, have you ever found yourself in a waiting room that smelled suspiciously like an overcooked meatloaf? Or perhaps, have you ever daydreamed about riding a lift that could suddenly become a comedy show, complete with nervous giggles? How about living in a world where your elevator attendant has all the laments of a teenager trying to stay upright while juggling soggy luggage? These are the experiences we shall be exploring tonight. You've just woken up in April 1912, cruising aboard the Titanic, and it might just be the most eventful, regular Tuesday of your life. Our charming young elevator attendant, who may or may not be trying to figure out if today's mood is more nervous or over-caffeinated, grins at you, a perfect blend of enthusiasm and sheer terror. You board the lift, feeling like royalty while trying not to trip over your own excitement. The cabin is small but cozy, a perfect ambiance for conveying feelings of bafflement mixed with delight. The attendant tries to appear serious, standing tall in his pristine uniform, but there's something in his wide eyes that suggests a pending catastrophe involving bagpipes and cabbage. Not exactly the Titanic's top act in a comedy lineup. He fidgets with the controls. Going down? Maybe? He tries, looking over at you like you hold the key to 1,000 mysteries. Don't worry about the maybe, you think, as the doors glide shut. Ah, the serenity, one step away from an electric chariot sending you into the next realm. You can practically hear the echo of luxury seeping into the air, like those first drops of rain in a long overdue downpour, mixed with a hint of panic. The moment of pause is brief, however, as the lift hums to life and your stomach performs an interpretative dance akin to an experienced stand-up comedian's nervous jitter. Will it move? Will it stick? Is this where you get trapped in a comically distressed loop of awkwardness with other bewildered passengers? The only way through this conundrum is acceptance. Acceptance, and perhaps a dab of gin, you muse. As the lift begins its journey, you take a moment to drink in the fine detail of second-class life. The soft cushions underneath you are a gentle reminder that the ship does indeed know one or two things about comfort. Other passengers chat happily, the sounds of laughter and clinking dishes creating a cozy soundtrack that rivals the ambient noise of a barista creating your fancy caramel macchiato today. It's comfortable chaos, a delightful mashup of social pleasantries and exclamations that sound like shouting into the void. Everyone's cheeky way of attempting to claim the best version of a relaxing moment before heading straight to, well, you know where this unsinkable ship is headed. The scent of freshly baked bread wafts through the air as you glide down the decks. You can practically see the loaves dancing in the light, their crusts an alluring golden hue. It's enough to make you consider how little effort it would take to follow your nose straight into the galley and, instead of gratitude, casually inquire as to whether they serve it with a side of melodrama. Might I have dinner with some dessert? Like the Italian opera version, please? Your thoughts are abruptly interrupted as the lift comes to an enjoyable swerve, which your attendant attempts to smooth over with a hearty laugh that comes off more like a cat coughing up a hairball. "Going a little faster now," he shouts, swiping at the lever as if trying to change a stubborn, deflating balloon. "Please remain calm." Calm? You wonder. Is that even a thing amidst flying luggage and youthful optimism? The lift gives another lurch, and you half suspect you're being launched into a Monty Python sketch, complete with exaggerated voices and silly facial expressions. Do you see the romance building here? In a B-movie? The lovely lady provides a soft smile, and suddenly you're flustered enough that it's unclear if the heat is from the lift or your rapidly reddening cheeks. Oh, but second-class life isn't without its slight witticisms. It's not precisely common to see your fellow passengers at leisure, immersed in sleep and luxurious banter. One lady shows up decked in frills, leaning comfortably against the wall as if it's made of pillows. You think back to the last time your bedroom wall offered you that kind of support without judgment,
Ah, yes, last Tuesday after lunch. You nearly miss your stop thanks to the delightful distraction of social life unfolding before you, humor and silliness wrapping around like an affectionate old blanket. You make your exit. As you step out, the attendant gives you an exaggerated bow, still working on that confidence like it's a newly invented recipe, and you genuinely struggle not to laugh. "Have a scrumptious evening," he calls after you, and for a brief second, you wonder if he just might be serving mashed potatoes at the next social gathering. So here you are, in your own kind of classy adventure, one partially fueled by optimism and gently tinged with the idea that maybe, just maybe, the next stop might happen to involve some unsuspecting person attempting to navigate a lifeboat parade. With a turn of events like these, who needs a good night's sleep anyway?
Chapter 21. Rise and Shine. Or maybe just rise. Hey guys. Tonight, imagine stepping into an elevator that smells faintly of stale biscuits and robust optimism. It sounds like a lovely start to a surreal dream, doesn't it? But hold on to your life jackets, not literally because we're breezing through Titanic's second class as we ascend, much like a souffle at an overly ambitious dinner party. Before we begin, let me remind you, if you enjoy wandering this snarky exploration of cozy absurdities, and who wouldn't want to, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. But only if you actually enjoy the ride, otherwise you might end up stranded in a linked life lesson about elevators, and no one wants that. So let's take it up a notch. Dim the lights, put on that cooling fan like it's your personal sea breeze, and get comfy. Ever thought about how magical it would be to have an elevator operator who's part comedian and part travel guide? Who wouldn't want to ride up and down with someone who treats each floor like it's an intermission at an opera that nobody asked for? Or have you ever pondered the complex inner life of an elevator attendant while you fumble around trying to find that one piece of change jammed precariously between your couch cushions? Congratulations, you've just woken up in April 1912. You're aboard the Titanic, cozily nestled in its second class, where the beds are like clouds, and the food is almost as nice as a nice nap. Almost. Let's talk about our menial hero for the evening. The elevator attendant stands before you, his face a delightful blend of excitement and uncertainty, like a puppy in a room full of grand pianos. He's invented a unique form of elevator etiquette that includes gesticulating wildly whenever he operates the lever. Perhaps he's trying to summon the spirits of gravity. You step inside the lift, feeling rather regal, as his hands move purposefully on the lever that feels smoother than a buttered slice of toast. As the doors close, the sound is a silken whisper, almost poetic. It's as if the lift is trying to say, "You're safe now," or maybe not. Buckle up. The soft hum of machinery begins, interrupting your thoughts with that calming sound you've only ever heard during an overpriced spa treatment. Is it an angelic choir, or merely the ship's engine, contemplating its life choices? Who knows? The lift begins to ascend, and you can't help but notice the decor. Walls lined with rich wood paneling that gives the air the faintest scent of, well, wood. Sure, other options might have included charcoal or laundry day socks, but this feels high-end, like you're on some sort of mysterious adventure with an air of heavy indulgence. Instead of vague panic, the lift offers you something much more charming, an enticing blend of excitement and yet another layer of bewilderment. As you glide up multiple decks, the sensation is definitely akin to floating through a cloud of cotton candy, only the delightful sweetness is replaced with the smell of giddy anticipation from fellow passengers, who, much like yourself, are stretching a bit too far for the evening that might be no more glamorous than a local bingo night. Out on the decks, there's a group gathered for a lively debate. Will they or won't they serve us pudding on this fine evening, is the question of the hour. A brave soul, a gentleman sporting an exquisite mustache, raises his cup, declaring, "I'll take 2, just in case." He gestures grandly as if attempting to catch the attention of a yachtsman sailing by. "You see," he proclaims, "one can never have too much pudding." Ah, the nostalgia, you think. It's reminiscent of the last time you visited your local diner, desperately trying to beat your old high score of see how many milkshakes you can order before they start judging you. The camaraderie is palpable, with a hint of mischief looming in the air. But wait, just when you think you're in for a leisurely evening, a sudden jolt interrupts your reveries, and our charming attendant, now winded from excitement, giggles nervously. Oops, I might have hit the turbo lever. The lift seems less of an establishment of grace and more of a circus ride. You lean against the wood paneling, right, like you'd ever seen a solid piece of furniture trying its best not to wobble while standing sideways. With a galloping giggle that seems to bounce off each deck as you rush upwards, your heart races. You realize your fellow passengers have taken to cracking jokes, turning this cozy lift journey into an impromptu stand-up comedy session. "You ever tried to eat pudding while standing in a moving elevator?" someone quips. And suddenly, you're in a sea of laughter, each chuckle vibrating in the walls like affectionate hugs. Sliding gently to a stop, you wonder if this is what the Titanic's second class promised. Moments of unexpected joy, round-up laughter, and the eternal hope that pudding will be involved. With each emotional draft of joy, you step into the world beyond the lift. The attendant bows exaggeratedly, throwing in a flourish that would make any Broadway dancer jealous. "Enjoy your visit," he calls, and part of you suddenly imagines him moonlighting as a magician in a smoke-filled bar, explaining disappearance tricks. "And now I shall make this pudding vanish." As you drift into the deck once again, filled with curiosity and that ever-so-familiar feeling of slightly unsinkable hope, you can't help but think, is it comfortable chaos or delightful absurdity that makes life on a grand vessel so utterly charming? With a soft chuckle, you keep moving, contemplating the next layer of whimsy awaiting you just beyond the curtain of fun. Chapter 22. The Cozy Heights of B-Deck. Hey guys, tonight we're embarking on a journey that isn't quite on your typical Life on Board brochure, but is infinitely more entertaining. Picture this. It's April 1912, and you've just stepped into the first elevator on a ship, presumably without having the slightest idea how it all works, much like your last venture into IKEA. Are you ready? Good. If you're enjoying this ride through history, sort of like a soft snooze on a history book, make sure to like, subscribe, and if you're feeling adventurous, drop a comment. But only if you actually enjoy this delightful sensory buffet of absurdity. We wouldn't want you to feel too much like one of those poor jellyfish stranded on a beach, now would we? So, let's dim the lights, crank up that fan, because nothing says nautical luxury like a bit of wind when you're safely inside, and cozy up as we meet our protagonist for the evening, a slightly confused passenger about to revel in how utterly cozy, chaotic, and just a tad ridiculous life is aboard Titanic's second class. Ever wondered what you do with a sweet corner of second-class luxury, far from the icy grip of reality? Maybe you ponder, what if I had a fashionably restrained tea party where I served biscuits that somehow taste like dreams and destiny? Or how about, what would it feel like to argue passionately over the appropriate way to wear a bowler hat? The thoughts swirl like a good cup of chamomile, don't they? Congratulations! You've just woken up in a place where your biggest dilemma is whether to indulge in a scone or a croissant. Welcome to B-Deck. As you step out into B-Deck, the fresh air swirls around you like an enthusiastic puppy greeting you at the door, or rather, like a well-dressed butler who, instead of a bow, gifts you with the aroma of rich oak and polished brass. The promenade and smoking room are your new domains, and oh, what wonders await. First off, let's pause and appreciate the elevator experience that has just whisked you away. It's like riding in a luxury glass box, only less likely to take you to the store and more inclined to whisk you into the heart of nautical grace. The small, uncertain elevator attendant, his cheeky smile sunken in a curiosity that resembles an overbaked muffin, has just introduced you to your floating escapade. Inside the lift, you might have felt a delightful buzz of anticipation. Was it the gentle whir of the gears, or maybe the promise of pudding-tasting adventures? Either way, you're kissed by a light draft, much like a mildly confrontational goose trying to navigate its way through a very serious tea party. As the doors glide open, you're greeted by fellow passengers, who exhibit the sort of camaraderie that makes bad sitcoms look like Shakespearean dramas. Everyone is gathered for a friendly debate, the kind that is heard in the old wives' tales about, will they or won't they compensate us with enough pudding? The answers to this eternal conundrum seem to hinge on a gentleman at the front, whose mustache is so impressive that it might even have its own biography. 2 puddings, he rejoices with all the enthusiasm of a man who just found out his favorite stocking cap was on sale. Why not 3? Balance is key. This spirited discussion feels like an episode of a culinary reality show, where everyone aggressively asserts their own pudding philosophies. You ever tried to eat with finesse in this kind of crowd? Someone chimes in, intermingling the evening air with humor. You find yourself nodding along, delighted by the absurdity. After all, this is a boat where the height of opulence is to have more scones than one can possibly balance. Let's not forget, while simulating your own culinary finesse, you notice the beautiful wood paneling surrounding you. Once polished enough to inhibit handprints, it now almost begs for more champagne dribbling down its classy visage. Ah, the maritime elegance, paired with the scent of noble ambition. Think of it as the Titanic's version of fine dining and dirt tracks rolled into one. A culinary compromise that screams second-class luxury, all while giggling about one's own delicious navigational misfortunes. As you move deeper into B-Deck, an interesting sight greets you, like a historical reenactment minus the costumes and awkward side eyes. Passengers spontaneously turn into crude comedians, each one vying for the crown of the Titanic's next top comedian. "Why did the pudding break up with the custard?" a wry voice calls out, and the laughter echoes as though the ship itself indulges in the comedic moments. And then, wham! Just as they reach the zinger of the punchline, the ground beneath you tilts wildly, and your elevator ride becomes more like a journey through an amusement park. "I seem to have pressed the turbo lever," the attendant squeaks out, laughter reverberating among the passengers. Meanwhile, you lean against a wall, grasping for imaginary handrails as you ride the tip of a teetering wave. You become part of the shared struggle as voices intermingle, battling against the clues of sea movement. Ah, do I eat my pudding or hold on to the wall? The ultimate dilemma, you muse, while snickering uncontrollably at the rising absurdity of the situation. With laughter ricocheting off the walls, you realize that perhaps this comforting chaos is the secret recipe of Titanic's second-class life. It's the mix of gentle absurdity and genuine camaraderie that weaves a fabric of warm memories, creating moments that promise to stay with you long after you've finished your pudding. As you step off the lift, you declare to yourself that you'd pay good money to experience the blend of slightly sinking anxiety and overwhelming delight over and over again. It's like finding the perfect throw blanket during winter sails.
But discovering it might actually be a very friendly octopus looking for a new home. So as you take a moment, standing on B-Deck of Titanic, letting the kaleidoscope of camaraderie and tasty puddings wash over you, remember this. You may be aboard a grand ship, but it's the fervent laughter that will guide you through. And while you ponder the life lessons on pudding balance and personal dizzy leadership, there's only one thing to say. The adventure is just unfolding, dear listeners. Chapter 23. Tucking into the Titanic's cozy second-class cabin. Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something fed by nostalgia and tinged with just a sprinkle of impending doom. What it was really like to snuggle into your second-class cabin on board the Titanic,
just before the icebergs began their ill-fated lifestyle choices. Now grab your favorite blanket, because the only thing colder than that ice is the reality of finding yourself at the mercy of humanity's biggest blunders, albeit wrapped in a snug wool blanket. Picture this. After a day filled with tea, thrill, and slightly awkward social interactions, it's time to retreat to the sanctuary of your cabin. But wait, did you remember to switch off the charming decorum of your fellow passengers? If you didn't, you might just walk in on a delightful symposium on why biscuits are superior to scones, a debate that could last longer than your last relationship. But before we get too cozy, let's take a moment to appreciate this historical luxury, or, as the inhabitants like to call it, the slightly more affordable escape from the prying eyes of first-class snobbery. If you're enjoying this captivating ride through history, a luxurious boat ride through soft, silky absurdities, don't forget to like, subscribe, and perhaps drop a comment, but only if your sensibilities can handle it, because we wouldn't want to be the reason for an iceberg-sized ethical hang-up now, would we? So, let's dim those lights, crank up that fan, because nothing says luxury like wind blowing directly at your face while munching on luxury biscuits, and slide into that time period as we explore the cozy confines of a Titanic cabin. Congratulations, you've just wandered down a plush carpeted hallway within the ostentatious glory of 1912. You enter your cabin, because you, my friend, are a second-class passenger. Your cabin is a delightful mix of wooden paneling and the kind of wallpaper they probably regretted choosing right after the ship left port. The plush bedding might feel like sinking into a cloud made of slightly overpriced marshmallows. The scent? Imagine fresh linen with just a hint of ship's diesel, and your neighbor's questionable cooking wafting in through the door. Ah, the sweet ambrosia of maritime living. Now let's paint a scene. It's quiet. The rhythmic hum of the Titanic's engines below is like your grandmother's lullaby, if your grandmother happened to be a particularly loud steam engine with a playful sense of rhythm. The vibrations soothe you, wrapping around you like a well-worn quilt, battling against the chill of the Atlantic breeze, seeping through the high-quality wooden frame. Did I say chill? I meant biting cold, because this is not your run-of-the-mill emotionless wind. No, this is the kind of breeze that suggests it has a bone to pick with someone. Like that wind is staring straight-eyed and sharp at your entire sense of self-worth. Now just imagine the luxury. At your bedside, here lies a light, a globe-like contraption that flickers gently, probably with the same intensity as your hopes of winning the lottery someday. You can read, doze, and have a perfectly lovely contemplation about life while wrapped in your blanket burrito of second-class comfort. Don't even get me started on the closet space. It's posh enough to fit all your clothes, and let's be honest, your half-dozen just-in-case outfits bought during a particularly reckless shopping spree. And as you sink into that luminous atmosphere, you can't help but wonder, did everyone have a breakfast plan for the next day? Because much like today's brunch, there's bound to be a discussion of waffle preferences that will rival an international summit. Do you think you'll enjoy an egg on toast, or a repeat of yesterday's dubious porridge that tasted suspiciously like it had a great friendship with the floor? The world is your biscuit, friend. As your eyelids grow heavy, you might also recall the sound around you. The gentle laughter of people just outside your cabin, engaging in a delightful dialogue about whose hot chocolate is superior, is like music to your ears, if you could filter out the occasional argument about the virtues of a good scone. Spoiler alert, they all have very strong opinions, and I do mean every last crumb. Now, it's not all tea parties and world-class biscuit comparisons. Occasionally, someone might walk by your door and let slip a comment about how exhilarating this voyage is, and you can't help but contemplate the irony of such an expression when you've just seen a floating iceberg charted out on the map, like a great white whale waiting to make a fashionably late entrance to a celebration of what is probably about to become a nightmare. In your cabin, gazing at the ceiling that feels more like a luxurious sky at night than merely a barrier between you and the chilly waves below, your own thoughts wander. Who needs sleep when you can indulge in ruminations about the delicate balance of pudding and scone? Ah, the medicinal power of utterly trivial life choices. But let's resist diving deeper into those thoughts for the moment and acknowledge something profound. While the world around you hums with rival dreams and dessert policies, all you need to do is embrace the simplicity of what's at hand. After all, surely this constitutes the kind of cozy life befitting a ship that, well, may or may not be declaring war on an iceberg in the near future. So, as you lie there, snuggled under the quilt and savoring the atmosphere, every warm breath echoing with laughter and absurdity, know this: the journey is merely beginning, and while it may lead you into frigid waters, it's the cozy moments that creep under your skin, making the world feel just a little brighter, like a lighthouse guiding you to safety, or a well-placed cup of warm cocoa reminding you that sometimes absurdity is just the cherry on top of life's whimsical adventure. Chapter 24. The Soothing Whispers of Titanic's Cozy Cabin Life. Hey guys, tonight, let's embark on a journey that's more captivating than a cat video, but just slightly less chaotic than attempting to assemble IKEA furniture blindfolded. We're diving deep into the serene, albeit tragically short-lived life of second-class passengers aboard the Titanic, just before it decided to play a game of bumper boats with an iceberg. Imagine cozying up in your cabin, where luxury meets awkward social dynamics, and every deep sigh from your roommate sounds like a gentle echo of an age-old sea shanty. Speaking of which, ever wondered if your great-great-grandmother had the same cabin predicament as you do now about that questionable casserole left over in your fridge? Did she debate the merits of a scone versus a biscuit while staring at the same dubious cornmeal porridge that may or may not have had its own Facebook page? As you settle into that warm, plush embrace of your quilted cocoon, remember to like, subscribe, and maybe sprinkle us with a comment, only if the cozy urge overtakes you, because who knows, your thoughts could potentially guide future adventures through the depths of mildly interesting history. No pressure though. We wouldn't want you to feel like you're about to walk the plank of social obligation. Now, kick back, dim those lights, turn on your personal fan to replicate the airy breeze of the Atlantic, and toss that last stack of laundry off the bed. Feel free to channel your inner Edwardian diva as you sink into the plush warmth of your Titanic second-class cabin. Congratulations! You've just woken up in April 1912, a time when the world regarded icebergs about as earnestly as one regards an oddly shaped vegetable from the back of the fridge. The room envelops you in a gentle embrace. The mahogany bunk cradles your tired frame like that questionable sofa your friend insists is vintage. Breathing in the very essence of historic voyage, coupled with just a dash of diesel, your senses awaken to a unique aroma. The mingling of fresh linens and the neighbors' even more questionable dinner attempts. A delightful olfactory roller coaster of, what is that? And there it is, the rhythmic thrum of the Titanic's engines below, reminiscent of a roaring slumber party for giants. It's like your significant other's snoring, amplified, beautifully orchestrated into a symphony that hints at romance, excitement, and just a sprinkle of impending disaster. Ever wondered if the ship might start giving you its own ideas for midnight snacks? Who could resist a midnight buffet as grand as this? As you lay nestled between your quilt and the slightly scratchy sheets, because luxury back then meant embracing imperfections, you might think, would you be enjoying breakfast in bed the next day, or debating a bowl of whatever got labeled as mystery? Spoiler alert, it's probably porridge sharing the same life. Philosophy that made cauliflower so universally unpopular. Surrounded by muffled conversations spilling from the bustling lounge just beyond your door, you begin to realize that the tenor of Edwardian banter was remarkably similar to that of a modern-day brunch. Heated discussions about whether or not cream belongs on top of a good biscuit, and the existential dilemma of whether you should toast your toast. Heaven forbid you are on the losing side of such riveting discourse. Now, let's zoom in on cabin life. Your belongings, if you can call them that, neatly hang in the modest closet. It's spacious enough, but you cannot shake the feeling that even your socks are judging the lack of style. Did you pack the optimal amount of plaid? One can never be too sure in a world full of upright ladies and gents where fashion police might resume their duty any moment. Let's not forget that charming little night lamp beside your bed. It casts soft light, flickering like an amateur flamethrower at a barbecue, perfect for illuminating the edges of your cabin as you ponder life's great mysteries. Will they serve the eggs sunny side up, or scrambled like somebody stepped out of a slapstick skit celebrating breakfast disasters? Isn't life at sea just a grand performance? Of course, there comes a time when your dreams invite thoughts of tea. It may not be Earl Grey served with the finesse of a British royal, but rather the thick, milky concoction delivered with enthusiasm that leaves a question dangling in your mind. Did someone actually add too much milk? Or was it always meant to lie at the bottom like an awkward guest at a gathering? The social dynamics among your fellow passengers could rival your own last company potluck. No one talking about who really brought that odd casserole. Just as your eyelids grow heavy, lulled by the pleasant chatter wafting through your door, a thought drifts into consciousness. Were icebergs considered the bad boys of ocean travel back then? Known for crashing parties and ruining good vibes? Here lies the irony. While your fellow passengers debate the appropriate biscuit lengths to dunk in tea, little do they realize that the ultimate drama is lurking in the shadows of the ocean, just waiting to reshape their fate in one icy moment. So pull that cozy blanket tighter, offer a nod of silent camaraderie to your slumbering roommate, and relish the impending adventure. Because while disaster may loom just beyond the horizon, it's the whimsical essence of life aboard the Titanic that will forever be cherished. Until the ice decides to interrupt the soiree, of course. Dream sweetly, dear traveler. Dream sweetly. Chapter 25. Sailing through starry whimsy and awkward tea times. Ahoy there, fellow night wanderers. Tonight's voyage takes us deeper into the shimmering, salty embrace of the Atlantic aboard the illustrious Titanic. Picture yourself surrounded by the kind of luxury that even your landlord would have to squint at and wonder, how in the world did they afford this? A veritable floating paradise, before, the whole Iceberg incident. As you drift off to dreamland, think back to a time when critical life questions revolved around whether you needed to top off your second cup of tea, or if the most scandalous rumor was about someone's newly bloated hat collection. Nothing says cozy like lounging on a ship that proudly claims to be unsinkable, a bold declaration that may or may not have been fueled by a morning dose of vanity and cornmeal mush. Congratulations, dear traveler. You've just awakened on a starry April night in 1912, surrounded by the kind of glamour that's just one top hat-styled meltdown away from a melodrama. The Titanic glides through the infinite darkness of the North Atlantic, the stars twinkling above like a vast gallery of bemused spectators watching a slightly excessive circus act unfolding below deck. Close your eyes and let the rhythmic vibrations of the ship serenade you, a gentle lullaby born straight from the throaty hum of giant mechanical dreams. The swell of the ocean sings an ever-so-pleasant tune, as if it's chuckling about the assorted shenanigans taking place within its floating guest house. You can almost hear the whispers of passengers gathered in the lounge, debating the deep, philosophical implications of whether jam should be spread before or after the butter on toast. Spoiler alert, it's a hotly contested topic. Speaking of breakfast, let's take a culinary detour into the dining room, where the second-class passengers experience an abundance of, let's say, culinary curiosities. Ah yes, breakfast on the Titanic was a delightful selection of, I'm not sure what that is, but I'm thoroughly intrigued. Plates overflow with mysterious porridge and what was mysteriously dubbed freshly caught fish, which we can only hope was caught in the past 24 hours,
and not from some grumpy fisherman named Old Salty Joe. You might find yourself munching on an omelet, unless of course the chef attempted an avant-garde interpretation. Think of it, eggs that are neither scrambled nor perfectly fried, but look suspiciously like a pancake that decided to take a swim in a pot of hot confusion. Ever had to tackle breakfast while simultaneously dodging a brisk ocean breeze? A recipe for disaster that somehow mirrors your Friday mornings in the office, doesn't it? Just like juggling a laptop, a lukewarm cafe mocha, and the emotional trauma of finding out your bagel was more stale than toast. As you meander your way back to your cabin, the riptides of laughter echoing behind you remind that aboard this majestic vessel, there's camaraderie connected through awkward moments and a collective appreciation of the worst puns on the high seas. Like a fine wine, the social interactions among second-class memos. After all, who wouldn't want to debate whether the fiddle is the superior musical instrument compared to a resonating potato? Now you're nestled back in your snug cabin, thinking about fashion choices in the second class. The room boasts charming, albeit peculiar, wallpaper that seems caught between a floral explosion and an abstract art attempt that nobody ever quite understood. You're staring at your attire, a carefully chosen getup that may or may not consist of plaid, the universal fabric of respectability in the Edwardian era. Did you really need to pack those 3 pairs of underpants? Lest you forget that laundry innovation was still a work in progress, particularly with a period-ready sponge and dip wash method that would have anyone reading the label on a laundry detergent bottle weeping for mercy. But amidst this cozy chaos, let's divert our attention to the starry sky above you. The heavens are a canvas unusually adorned with celestial brushes, shimmering with star-dusted mischief. The crew on board went so far as to set the evening mood, an orchestra of crickets playing their lilting tunes of "We're All Gonna Die," but with flair. It's a stark contrast to the onboard post-dinner evening debacle of trying to herd your fellow passengers together for sing-alongs about the sheer joy of packing unmentionables into your suitcase. Now that's entertainment. You slowly drift off to sleep, with the siren call of your cabin wrapping around you like a soft, plaid blanket full of, "May we never take ourselves too seriously." With each passing moment, the scales of utopian bliss carefully tread toward the unreal, where passengers toast to their good fortune, whilst the floating palace steams ahead into history's arms, leaving regret and awe mingling in the salty breeze. Before you close your eyes completely and descend into the whimsical world of dreams, just consider, less than a week into this magnificent adventure, you'll find that life aboard this grand liner poses questions more pressing than simply where to hang your fur coat. What's more terrifying? The mysteries of the iceberg lurking below, or the truth behind the fish omelet that's somehow tagged along? Rest easy, dear traveler. Those who forget their porridge will always find comfort in dreams, swaying softly around the notion of, we can just pretend tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow will.
And now, as our journey through Titanic's second-class world comes to a gentle close, take a slow breath and let the echoes of everything we've explored drift softly through your mind. Tonight, you traveled through creaking corridors, cozy mahogany cabins, questionable dinners, brass switches that seemed far too glamorous for their job, and the endearing chaos of a ship full of people just trying to survive their day with dignity intact. You've laughed with passengers who battled runaway soup, wobbling staircase ascents, over-eager musicians, and wallpaper patterns bold enough to make anyone question reality. Yet beneath all that hilarity lay something real, something deeply human. Mildly interesting history for life in 1912 wasn't easy. These people carried exhaustion, uncertainty, long journeys, and hopes bigger than the ship itself. They faced discomfort, seasickness, cramped cabins, and the subtle daily struggles that stitched their lives together. But through it all, they kept going, with humor, with grace,
and with the kind of resilience that has carried humanity across centuries. And if we're honest, their days, absurd as they sometimes were, make ours feel unbelievably cushy. Tonight's story is a little reminder that you are listening with electric lights, climate control, fresh food, stable flooring, and not a single chance of being ambushed by a mysterious Edwardian pudding. So let yourself feel grateful for warmth, comfort, and the simple security of the world you get to rest in. Now, let the gentle rocking of imagination settle you. Let the laughter fade into a soft hum. Whatever struggles you carried today, set them down beside you. You've survived them, just like the people before you survived theirs, with humor and heart. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, drift quietly into sleep, knowing you're safe, warm, and exactly where you need to be. Good night, traveler.